was wrong to say. I wouldn't change a thing, 'cause in the story of our lives, the best of times through colored glass, time rolls on enough to let me move on past, but every little now and then it creeps on back to shape my smile.
Vestiges After Dark is a philosophical speculation program sponsored by the Holy Nicolaitan Catholic Church, an independent Catholic church inspired by the diversity of early Christianity and in communion with the Old Catholic Church. Presiding Bishop Bryan Ouellette presents perspectives on esotericism, metaphysics, philosophy, psychology, paranormal research, theology, spirituality, religion, and Catholicism. We are not affiliated with the Church of Rome. Our discussions of Catholicism are broader than, and distinct from, the Church of Rome. The views and opinions expressed are those of the individual participants.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever the case may be. For all of you listening out there across the crazy planet Earth, welcome to Vestiges After Dark. And I am your host, Bishop Bryan Ouellette, coming to you live from the deep woods of western Georgia on this August 25th, 2026. Well, it's time for our second summer special this good summer. You know, it's kind of hot out there, but not too bad when you have a show like this to watch tonight, and that is your favorite show and mine, Open Lines, Open Topics, where you get to be the guest. You can ask any question you want. You can call into the show. You can give us your comments, your stories, whatever's on your mind. We'll talk about it. That's tonight on Vestiges After Dark. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the summer special, second one for Vestiges After Dark this season. Once again, I'm your host, Bishop Bryan Ouellette, here with my co-host, Jamie Wolfe.
Hey, everybody. Happy summer.
Yeah, happy summer. It's been a hot one. Speaking of heat, I just got back from Las Vegas, and it was 115 out there.
Nope.
Yeah, quite warm, although, you know, everyone's, when you walk around in Vegas, they're always like, this is some heat, right? And I'm like, but I'll still take 115 in the desert to 95 or 90 in
That's
Georgia
true.
any day.
You're not pouring buckets of sweat.
Exactly. It's much more comfortable. I mean, yeah, there is the what I call the hair dryer effect. You're walking through it. It feels like someone's blowing hair dryer in your face.
Yeah.
That is Vegas.
Yeah.
However, it is still better than the suffocating atmosphere of Georgia in the summer with all this heat. So, and humidity. So I'll take Vegas any day. And it was actually a really good trip. We got to go to, finally got the time to go to, or planned the time to go to the Golden Tiki Bar on Spring Mountain there in Chinatown. Ghost Adventures had done an episode there for longtime fans. You probably remember that. I had never been to it, but I always wanted to go. I love tiki bars and I love tiki drinks. So it was quite the experience. And we ended up spending 3.5 hours there. It was
It's just a good visit right there.
It really was, and we just sat there.
You need about 3 hours if you decide to look at everything they have in there.
Well, and also to be able to do all the drinks because you don't want to leave there drunk and but they do have they
Pacing
actually serve
yourself.
they do, and they serve food. They had I had the char siu ribs. They were really good.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it was a good experience. Really an interesting bar. I could put some pictures up on my social media. So if you go to Exorcist Bishop on Facebook or the Exorcist Bishop on Instagram, you should be able to see all the pictures there that I took. There's skulls, and it's a pirate shaman kind of theme, I guess, to get into that mystical tiki kind of culture. It was really it was fun. I had a good time. And the tables were very kind too. Tracy had a 39 run at craps.
That's epic.
39 runs at craps. So it was the numbers just kept coming, and I had never seen anything quite like it.
Hey, when you're in that groove, don't say nothing. Stand back.
Yeah,
Let the lady
just
do what she's
doing.
doing.
Let the money come in, because you just at that point you just bet all the you place all the points and you buy the 4 and 10.
I've seen that.
And
The
just
energy,
sit and
the
let it
energy
go.
is so cool to watch, though. I don't gamble. Don't ever really. I mean, I'll play around with the slot machines or whatever. But it was really cool to see. I think I was there with you guys one time where we had she's a really older lady, like typical. She's the one that smokes the Virginia Slims and has the voice from LA.
Oh, you mean at Binion? I
can't remember where it was, but remember we were
Binion's.
watching her and she was on a roll, and we started gathering quite a crowd.
Yeah, that was
It
Binion's.
It was pretty fun. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Well, it was great, and Tracy's not a professional dice setter, but you could have fooled anybody at the casino that night, because she just kept throwing the right numbers, and
Well done, Trace.
it's like an ATM. Just the money just keeps
Shoot.
rolling in. And I did very well at Pago Tiles. That's my
that's your thing,
game.
though.
That's my game.
Yeah.
And I had a 20 win run at that. I literally bought in. Okay, I took my first. I was playing quarters, so I played $25 a hand, and then I put that first $25 chip down on the felt. I never touched it again. All 18 of the next 20 hands I won, and the other 2 were just pushes. Again, an incredible run.
Sounds like a good trip.
It was, and I was like, why wasn't I betting $100 hands? I should have just
Because then you'd be losing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, but when you're in the zone,
Yeah.
you really, it's like almost like anything you do, you can't lose when you're in that zone. So it was a fun trip, a nice distraction. And nothing's better than going to Vegas and having some good meals for
the food,
the week.
man.
Yeah, best food. It's like that is the in the U.S. anyway. That's the capital of cuisine right now. I think it beats L.A. too. I beat L.A. and New York. I really do, as far
I'm
as
not
good
going
food.
to argue with that.
Yeah.
And New York's got great food, but my God, are they expensive?
Yeah, well, I mean, not that Vegas is cheap. It used to be, but not anymore.
You get your money's worth.
but at
in
least you
Vegas.
get good.
You get the big. You still get the big portions.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
assuming.
oh yeah,
New
more than
York,
you
not
can
so much.
possibly eat. They're always like, always like, you want a bag to take it home. It's like, well, take it home to where?
Yeah, what, the hotel room?
I mean, I'm not going to be reheating, this, the 4 courses in a microwave. It's just not going to happen. So it's like, yeah, you try to eat as much. You try to pace yourself. When Trace and I go out there, we pretty much only eat Chinese because the Chinese food in Las Vegas is hands down the best.
It really is.
So, even though we have some good Chinese restaurants here in Atlanta, I have to say that it doesn't even hold a candle to what you can get in Las Vegas as far as authentic Chinese cuisine. So, when we go there, we focus on the foods we don't get at home rather than eat stuff that we can. So even though Vegas has great steakhouses, fantastic French restaurants, I've got that here, and I can do that here. I mean, I can do good Chinese too, but I mean, to get the variety, it'd be really hard to do the variety of a good dim sum restaurant at home. And, there's nothing quite like what you have in Vegas. So that's what we focus on. We go there and get the Chinese. And we had actually did one deviation from that. We went to a brand new restaurant at the Palazzo, which is adjacent to the Venetian, kind of the sister property, called X-Pot. It's recently opened. It's a Japanese hot pot restaurant. All you can eat A5 Wagyu. Japanese A5 Wagyu,
real.
not the real stuff, not this American crap. And I'll tell you, it is like melt in your mouth level. And if that's not enough to water your mouth, there is an array of endless crab legs, lobster claws, lobster tails. And we're not talking little tiny ones. We're talking like big claws, big tails, abalone, sushi that includes toro, the fatty tuna. It had uni.
So did you spend 3 hours there too?
Yeah, well, easy. Well, they give you like a 2-hour limit, but I don't think they're too strict about it. They're not too strict about it.
Not too busy. Most places let that slide.
And as long as you're not, they're like obviously abusing the policy where you're just constantly, scarfing it down. They don't really give you a hard time. In fact, they were begging us to eat more, and it's like, no, I can't take any more.
You also appreciate the culinary aspect of it. Like you tend to ask for things that normal tourists don't ask for because you're more educated in the culinary arts, especially Asian cuisine.
Yeah, Asian cuisine.
So, you get in good and they want you to stay because they enjoy when people enjoy their food and actually appreciate it.
And you could definitely tell that there.
Yeah.
And so I would highly recommend anybody that go there hungry. Don't, try not to eat anything for the entire day. If you can, go there starving. And I'll tell you, it was a fantastic experience. And it wasn't, it's expensive as far as, I guess you could say, a hot pot restaurant goes, but it was not that bad considering what you're getting.
A whole ass experience.
You're talking $130 a person, which is not that bad.
You'll eat,
It's not that bad for the quality and the level. The amount of food. I ate easy 5 or 6 lobster claws. We just kept getting the Wagyu coming. It was fantastic. And we didn't even have to ask. They just kept bringing it. It just keeps coming to your table and you got to tell them to stop.
Sounds like paradise to me.
And on top of it, in between, they have a dim sum that comes to your table, and it's all sorts of interesting stuff. It was so good.
I would be so miserable.
Oh yeah, but you'd love it though. You'd love it. You'd be miserable though. You need help getting out of there.
A cancer coma. You know, us cancers in our bellies.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Rolling over in the chair, sucking my thumb.
But that
sounds yummy.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And if we ever go out there and have a case or something, we got to go. And I'll tell you that's been my summer so far. Pretty good.
Sounds good.
Joining us from Australia, we have Father Chris Yates. How you doing tonight, Father?
Well, I was doing all right until you started talking about all that food.
Now you're hungry, right? Now you're hungry.
Me too. Yeah, well, and for the last couple of years, and especially I had another birthday recently.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Consequently, I eat nothing. I eat one meal a day. When I eat that meal, I eat well.
Yeah.
But I have one meal a day, and so it's now 10:15 a.m. here, and so I never have breakfast, and all of that talk of food has made me starving. But I can tell you that if you like Asian food, see, I do the opposite. When I went to Vegas, I did the opposite because all around me here in the inner west of Sydney, are Asian restaurants. So you
Yeah,
can
you
get
have
pretty much
plenty.
anything you want.
Yeah, you have plenty.
So when I went to Vegas, I went to Guy Fieri's place.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah.
That's cool.
And actually, it was pretty good. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
I mean, we went to other places as well, but we went there because one of the daughters is a big fan of his show. But I was actually quite impressed because I thought it'd be kind of whatever. But it's actually pretty good and lots of it. So I did enjoy that in Vegas.
You got to go with what you like, I mean, if that's what you like, that's what you like, and I can understand that because I mean, you're on the Pacific Rim,
like
so
it
you're
every
gonna
day.
gonna get good
Yeah.
Asian food out there. I can totally understand why you
doubt.
go with something
Yeah.
different.
Well, I just like when Jamie picked me up from the airport, and we went to my amazing hotel.
Oh my God.
But the following day,
That's one way to put it.
the following day when Jamie picked me up,
Every time I pass
he
that
took me
place,
to
we
the-
still laugh about it. I want you to know that.
You know what?
You want me to walk you to your room?
It's giving me more.
I'm armed and
more
you're
joy
not.
than you can imagine. I've never stayed in a place like it since almost like the real rural New South Wales. I stayed in a place that was almost like that.
Well, kids, I'm going to give you some law enforcement advice. Having worked hotel motel interdiction for a few years, do not stay at hotels where the doors are on the outside. And that's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah,
Father
I
Chris,
couldn't tell that from
you were
the
a champ.
internet.
You were a champ.
But you also took me to the Chick-fil-A. Now, most Americans
Yes.
will think, so what? But we don't have Chick-fil-A here.
Oh no,
You have to
Americans
have
don't
the
think
word
so. Well,
chicken. You cannot be a priest, come to America, and not have the word
Americans think
Well, chicken.
Chick-fil-A is like the top of the line, so no one's going to question that, Father. No one's
But I
going
did
to.
enjoy it, I have to say.
That's okay.
Although what amused me was the poor girl behind the counter couldn't understand a word I was saying.
Oh,
think-
that yeah.
And it still.
And you
shocked-
don't
it
even
still
have a
shocked
strong
me.
accent. I mean, really, your accent's actually
I
quite
know.
clear. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Cockney or
Yeah.
something. I mean,
No, but even Aussies, I was over there with people with strong Australian accents, but clear, and people look at you like. So fortunately, Jamie translated because she's bilingual.
I speak all kinds of accents.
joining us from Tennessee, we have April Narad tonight. How you doing, April?
I'm doing really good. I'm glad to be on the show. And I was going to say, next week, I'm going to be going gambling. So if anybody has any luck to send my way,
Stand-up,
I'd greatly
yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay, well, I mean, you got to talk to Tracy. She's the one that had the run, but I mean, I guess I had a pretty good run at Pygao, but
You
yeah,
guys usually do pretty good in Vegas.
I very rarely will we ever leave there down.
Yeah.
Um,
That's all that matters.
Worst that ever usually happens is we leave like
That's just smart play.
we just even out. It's like didn't win, didn't lose. But most of the time we walk away there with more than we started with. So I'd say that's always a win. Even if it's a small amount, it's still a win. But this was a big amount for me. I mean, I did exceptionally well this time. It was a really good trip for me. So yes, all the luck in the world to you, April, next week. Okay.
Have fun. Have fun. Have fun.
I'm going to do that, and then I'm going out to the beach. So
Well, that's a double whammy. I mean, that's pretty good.
Enjoy the ocean.
Yeah, definitely enjoy it. Also joining us from Tennessee, we have Brendan Milam tonight. Haven't had you on where I could introduce you in a long time, Brendan. It's good to have you here with us.
It's good to be back. While you just got done gambling, April, you're about to go gambling. I'm going to be at work.
Well, but see, with the
But
money you
see-
earn, you can go gambling.
You gamble with your life every time you
get-
deliver a package.
That's true.
Brandon.
That's
I
true. You
mean,
get the dog bites.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon shows us the scars he gets on his deliveries. He gets bitten by dogs. I mean, so really, you're the biggest gambler of all. I mean, really.
Brandon, I spent 3 nights in Vegas and didn't place one bet.
that's me.
That doesn't surprise me.
I go for the food and the people watching.
It's too confusing. I'm not against it. I'm not a moralist.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh gosh, this looks like
You just
a
gotta
nightmare. I'm
you
just
gotta
gonna
go
have a
with someone who
whiskey.
can indoctrinate you. That's what it is. You need to be
that's right.
initiated into it.
I know how to play poker and blackjack. I looked at it and thought, oh, I just had stage fright.
Yeah,
my-
I can
it's
understand.
not
Well,
my
you
thing.
just got to
I
go with
enjoy
me. Go with
watching.
me. You'll just come with me.
Oh,
I'll
you guys
I'll
will have
set
a
you up.
blast.
I'll set you up.
It's on. We'll do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so I've got a little joke for everybody tonight. I think you guys will like that. Start us off, some fun.
Is it PG-13?
Yeah, it's a Jewish
PG?
joke, but it's a fun joke. Okay, are you ready for
Okay.
this? Okay, so let me give it to you. All right, Father Chris will love it. So there's this Jewish guy, and he's heading to synagogue. Okay, and he arrives, and his buddy's there and sees him and comes over and says, "Hey, how you doing?" So the guy says, "Oh, not too good, not too good." So the other, his friend says, "Well, what's wrong?" And so he says, "Well, my son told me this week that you're never going to believe this." He says, "You're never going to believe this. My son this week said, I'm converting to Christianity." And so the friend says, "You're never going to believe this. My son told me that he's converting to Christianity too." So they're both kind of alarmed by this, and they go through and they attend the synagogue services and everything. And at the end, they're like, they're still really upset, feeling awful about this. And so they say, "What should we do?" "Well, let's go talk to the rabbi. Let's go talk to Rabbi about this and see if he can give some guidance." So he goes and he goes to the office, and they both walk in, and the rabbi says, "Hey, what can I do for you both?" And they say, "Rabbi, we've got a problem, and we need your guidance. We need your help." So the rabbi says, "So what's wrong?" He says, "Well, you're never going to believe this, but our sons are converting to Christianity. They just told us this past week." So the rabbi says, "Well, you're never going to believe this. My son told me today, in fact, that he's converting to Christianity." So now they're all three of them are really really up in arms about this. They're terribly upset. And so, the poor Jewish guy says, "So Rabbi, what should we do?" He said, "Well, we're going to go to prayer. We got to go to prayer on this. Let's go back into the synagogue. Let's pray." So they do. All three of them go back in, and the rabbi starts the prayers. And so he says, "God," he says, "we need your guidance. We need your help. We're really at a loss for what to do." And suddenly God starts speaking, and everyone's in awe because the rabbi is praying to God, and God speaks, and God says, "What can I do for you?" And so the rabbi says, "Well, these gentlemen, came in, and their sons are converting to Christianity, and mine too. Told me today, in fact, that they're converting to Christianity, and we need guidance. We don't know what to do." So God was silent for just a moment and said, "You're never going to believe this."
My son too. I feel that's where that was going.
I love Yiddish humor, like New York Yiddish humor is amongst my favorite things. I know this is everyone will have heard this, I'm sure, but this is my favorite joke. There's two Jewish mothers. A group of Jewish mothers who are having dinner at a Jewish restaurant in New York, and the waiter comes over and he says, "Is anything okay?"
That's not just Jewish, folks. That's
I'll tell you though,
up that way.
a really good Jewish guy can tell some good jokes. Let me tell you. They're very funny.
Yeah.
They're very funny.
It's really good.
Oh yeah.
It's really good.
I mean, they've got a sense of humor.
That's a good one though.
Yeah, that's it. I thought you'd like that one.
I ain't gonna believe this. I might.
That might well get used this week.
Yeah, go right ahead. Go for it. It's not mine. It's my one I heard. Tracy actually shared it with me, and it's like, oh, I got to say that on Vestiges. All right. April, I know you got some questions from the ether here, and this is the Open Lines, Open Topics. And so we triggered something. I guess the Jewish joke.
We said Jew.
We said Jew. You can't say Jew on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did wonder.
There are brothers and sisters, guys.
Yeah.
We're We're not making
Oh my
fun.
goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
my
tell you right
gosh.
now, if I told that joke to my Jewish attorney
Yeah.
who does all the work for this church, he'd think that was hilarious. I can tell you that right now.
And
All
probably
right.
tell you when in return. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, believe me, he would.
Yeah.
He would.
friggin' algorithm.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get questions from the ether. It is open lines, open topics, so we can take our time with these, even if it takes us into future segments.
Bum, bum, bum.
If you all out there have any questions of your own, you can start logging them into the chat right now. Or if you'd like to actually call in, our personal preference is that you call in and give us your questions, comments, stories, whatever, directly. I'll have that number up on the screen in the second and third hours when we start taking callers. But you can start asking your questions now. We try our best to answer them in the order that we receive them. And our moderators, as well as our panelists here, will be doing their best to make sure we don't miss any. Okay? So go ahead and start asking away, and we'll go through questions from the ether. These are questions that have come in previous weeks through our various social media, where we do our best to try to give a more complete answer to the questions that do come in, because sometimes the questions deserve a more complete response than one that we can give online. So let's get started with our first one, April.
All right. First question comes from Peter. And he asked, I saw a clip the other day that described the hell's trinity where Satan, Lucifer, and Beelzebub hold an unholy trinity. Any thoughts on this? I haven't been able to find the whole podcast interview to gain a full context. In the 90-second clip, they stated that Lucifer and Satan were not just one entity, but take a father and son role, and Beelzebub as version of Holy Spirit for hell to complete the triangle.
Okay, so there's really kind of two ways of answering this question. There's the theological answer, which I'll give first, and then there's kind of a metaphysical answer that might help to give some clarity to this thought process. But theologically speaking, let's start with that one. There is no teaching in the church that presents Satan, Lucifer, and Beelzebub as three separate beings that form some kind of parody of the Trinity. It's not something that is part of Christian theology. Now, there is a metaphysical, as I mentioned, reality that somewhat reflects this, but not quite exactly as what's being described here. Theologically speaking, of course, though, first, Lucifer is just one of the several designations for Satan, as well as Beelzebub. These are, names that are given directly to that reality that the church typically calls the devil. Okay, so they're not like separate things in the same sense as what is being described. Now, there are the orders of demons, as there are with like the choirs of angels. There's the 9 choirs of angels in Catholic tradition. This is not necessarily dogma or doctrine. It's just tradition. You get the 9 choirs of angels. The seraphim, cherubim are at the top. You got the angels and archangels at the bottom. And then you got like the principalities and the powers and dominions in between and all that stuff. Well, there's a kind of a correspondence to that tradition where there's the orders of demons. And these orders do fall under these names. So you'll have the order of Satan, the order of Lucifer, and these are typically orientations to the type of evil that particular order does. But ultimately, it all forms in Catholic theology anyway under the umbrella that we call the devil. And that is typically seen as one definitive entity. Now, there is maybe a biblical image that kind of parodies the Trinity in a way, but it's not what's being described here in this question. You have in the book of Revelation, the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. That's kind of a parody of the Trinity that's being represented there, but not a true counterpart. These are all created things that are defeated. So it's not really in any way a direct correspondence. Remember, Christianity is not a dualist religion. All right, we're not. We don't fall under this idea like you see in Zoroastrianism. Yeah, or yeah, Manichaean or Zoroastrianism, where like there's this evil God that's as equally powerful to the good God. We don't have that. I mean, the evil's been defeated, and so these concepts and these, whether you look at them as fallen angels or whatever, are defeated things. Okay, so there's no real correspondence to the Holy Trinity. Now, metaphysically, let's explain it from a more esoteric vantage point, which I think will help to make sense here. What we call Satan from a metaphysical standpoint is not a singular entity, not in the way that it is represented theologically. And that is because evil in its sense, by its own nature, is a continuously divided corruption of the wholeness of God itself. That's really what evil is. And so demons are really just continuous fractures of that initial broken reality that that causes evil. It's the absolute causation of evil. So Satan isn't really one thing. Satan is the multiplication of this divided nature, because anything that's divided from God in itself is evil. And that is the very definition of evil, which is why the fall of man is problematic, why mortal sin is so dangerous, because these are all representative of things that separate or break from the wholeness of God. And so evil really is that. I mean, if it helps to look at these things as people, and think of Satan as a proper name, then go eat your heart out with it. I mean, if that helps you, go ahead. But, this is a very simplistic way of looking at some of these very high spiritual realities. Satan's not a proper name, okay? It's used as that now, as a way of trying to help you to understand something that's largely ineffable. But overall, when we look at these concepts that we call evil, what we're talking about is the fracture of God's creation that separates itself from him.
The diabolos.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
we talked about that before, didn't we?
It's not a proper noun. It's the divider.
Yeah.
Satan,
divider.
the accuser.
Mhm.
Like, it's and also it's completely consistent, because God is defined by what he is. You get this throughout the scriptures, but even in the Gospels, who do you say that I am?
Mhm.
All the time, God is defined by who he is, and whereas the devil is defined by who he is not.
Evil's always defined by the negation, by the negation or a negative concept of itself. Yeah.
Well, and therefore, it's almost like the opposite of a name. If if there is an opposite of a name, I'm not explaining that very well. But whereas God is the one that unifies, brings things together, and has a oneness and wholeness, and therefore has is the ultimate noun. The I am, the is who is. The devil is almost the opposite. So now the other thing that goes on, and this goes on in both directions, because we're people, human beings anthropomorphize.
Yes.
We do it with our dogs. Oh, my dog loves me. Sort of, but actually you're projecting your love onto that dog and then receiving it back. Not that dogs don't have a dog soul. Sorry, all the dog lovers out there.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry about that. But
dog spirit, maybe not so much a dog soul, but there's a dog spirit.
Yeah. I'll go with St. Francis on it.
Yeah.
Even Thomas Aquinas actually talks about animal souls, but they're not the same as a human soul.
Right.
Anyway, but we anthropomorphize God all the time, of course. And of course we do it with evil as well. Of course we do it with the demons. We like to, just as people wrongly envisage the Holy Trinity, and anyone who's been in pastoral ministry knows how wrong even the faithful get the Holy Trinity. In a sense, you can only get it wrong, right?
Yeah.
But we, it's no surprise, therefore, that we get it completely wrong when it comes to applying it to the forces of darkness, to the thing that is very much defined by what it isn't.
I mean, theologically, it is perfectly acceptable, accurate, orthodox, you could even call it. It's not us, even though it is esoteric, it isn't considered an esoteric principle. It's a truly orthodox theological principle to define evil in its most simplistic way as an absence of the good. In the same way that we can define, darkness in itself is not a thing. It's just absence of light, but it's not a thing in and of itself. Just like the color black is not a color. Black is the absence of the ability to reflect light, but it's not a color. I mean, you might have a crayon that black, you can get oil paintings, that are black, but it's not a color on the spectrum of light. All the colors are variations of the spectrum of light. Black is the absence of all of them. White is all of them in wholeness, which is very interesting when you're looking at things as a philosophical parallel to, God. But evil in and of itself is not a thing, does not exist. It's just the absence of the good. And I think it would do, more advanced Christians, perhaps the ones that find value in this show, because I can guarantee you the ones that do not understand what I just said there are probably not listening to me anyway. And all you have to do is use that understanding to apply it more accurately to these concepts that we call Satan or we call the devil, and it will help you to maybe sort of take away some of the mythos surrounding it and to see things and work with those things more accurately. Because I've always felt that it does us no good to maintain mythical stories if we're not understanding the principles behind them. When we start to turn mythical stories into literal histories, that's where we go astray. And unfortunately, theology went that way in the Middle Ages and never looked back. And we're worse off today than ever because fundamentalism really took that to the next level. At least the Catholic and Orthodox theology never went to that extreme. They do sometimes, but not to the extreme that fundamentalists have, where everything is absolutely literal, and specifically what it says is the only thing it means. The Bible is everything but that. It almost never is telling you what it exactly means. It's almost always giving you an allegorical understanding of things. Almost always.
Well, if it did, it wouldn't have survived.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, all of the despots in history had Mao with his little green book and the Communist Manifesto, which if you can't read the first line and realize it's bullshit, I can't help you. That's not there's not enough truth in that. There's almost not a word for it for what the allegory in the scriptures are, but I like, they're kind of super truth. It's like more the word truth isn't enough. They are the truest of true stories. So the allegory of Adam, whether it's an allegory, whether there were Adam and Eve, literally, that's such an alleyway that Christians fight with each other over. It doesn't bloody matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
The super truth. Actually, as science progresses, I get more and more inclined to believe that Adam and Eve were the first humans. But that's another story. The super truth is that, and the one that really matters is that humans are fallen. Yeah. That fallen human nature is true. That's the most true thing in the book Genesis that we need to take away from that.
Well, one of the esoteric positions on Adam and Eve, which might be the bridge between absolute historicity to absolute allegory, one of the, I guess, the bridge between both of those extremes might be this esoteric principle that I think largely extends back from Jewish Kabbalah. And the Kabbalistic tradition of, which is also medieval in its sense, but it's a development of very, you could say, very precise development of earlier Jewish mysticism that preceded it. But the teaching there is largely, and became the foundation to a lot of Western mystery tradition. The teaching there is that Adam and Eve represent or are humanity, the in its perfect state of wholeness, and that the fall is not so much a fall from grace as in being in God's good graces, but rather the fracture within itself. And so therefore
Absolutely.
all men are a fracture, a piece of Adam that's been separated from that original Adam that the Bible talks about. All women are a fracture of Eve.
I think that's much closer to what doctrine actually is on this, because we don't really believe that I'm not guilty of Adam's personal sin.
Right. You
Right.
carry the consequence of it.
We all bear the consequences, and that's a great way of describing how that works.
I mean, if you take someone and you hurt them and you maim them and they lose their legs or something, that injury is not their fault, but they have to live with those consequences forever.
And so do their children.
Yeah,
it restricts their ability to make a living and to provide for them. And
exactly.
That all makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that's a better way to look at it. I kind of agree with, like, in that sense, yeah, absolutely. There's a historical principle behind Adam and Eve, for sure, because we come from something.
The reason that this, like I say, super truth is so important is this isn't just about, what Christians talk about in church. This is how you know that any political utopian scheme that someone dreams up to win your vote and get rich is how you know it cannot be true.
Yeah,
because it presupposes that human beings are, in all the right circumstances, perfect, and the fall tells you no, they're not, and they can't be. And therefore, utopian schemes of what is that great line? The schemes of mice and men, they're never going to fix you,
right?
And it's why Marxism is doomed to fail. Why Mao's Green Book just leads to mass murder, because it refuses to accept the principle of fallen human nature. That's why it's so important to, not just religiously, but for us to preach that, so that even non-believers understand that basic principle.
Well, it's always, it always comes back to arrogance in the end, is what it really amounts to.
Ego.
Pride.
Yeah, it's pride.
Ego,
it's the ultimate sin of pride. Yeah. So I know that's kind of a long way of answering the question, but I think it does a very complete job.
It was a great answer.
I think there's a lot of people that would listen to that answer and be like, I never thought of it that way before.
I hope so, but
sense.
you never know. You never know. I mean, there's always going to be people that will be like, that bishop, he's full of shit.
Yeah, well, gotta be full of something.
I know, right? Okay, April, what's our next one from the ether?
Okay, the next question comes from Brandon, so we know it's going to be long-winded.
All right, Brandon, you can hear to testify to my answer, all right?
All right, it's asked, how should we understand the relationship between possession of the divine name, the tetragrammaton, and divine agency? For example, in Exodus, the messenger of God bears the divine name and is given authority to act in ways only attributed to God. Likewise, later traditions describe figures such as Metatron as possessing or bearing the divine name and exercising extraordinary divine authority. What is it about possessing the name that enables a being to function in this way? And why does it seem that people no longer have the same kind of access to or ability to operate through the divine name?
Okay, so as we talked about, and I think Brandon came to understand this on the network where we had a discussion about this, the question itself is operating from a flawed premise. The divine name in scripture isn't like it is sort of sometimes implied in other places, like some kind of magical password or something that gives access to God's. Yeah, it's not a proper noun, and it's not an initiation into some kind of like mystery that gives you access to God's power. The name in scripture, as theology defines it, the tetragrammaton, is God's presence, his authority, and his identity, all in one, is contained in that one reality, which is why it can't be uttered, because you could never possibly be able to represent that perfection in any meaningful way. So it's best left unsaid. So when God says to the angel in Exodus 23, my name is in him, what he's saying is that this messenger has been given the extraordinary authority to represent God and act on his behalf in that circumstance. So he does not possess it. He doesn't own it. It's like, I've got the name, so I've got all the power, to do what I want with it. It's quite the opposite. It's actually, you become a humble servant of God in that sense, and you do his will, which is the ultimate representation that we see in Jesus. And so from a Christian perspective, every Christian who is baptized is operating in that same capacity, because we have received the fullness of God's identity in that sacrament. And that's why it's so powerful. And you hear Protestants say it all the time, in Jesus' name, amen. Every prayer they end that way. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's not a Catholic tradition to say we do it a different way, but it means the same thing, the way the Catholic Church ends prayers and the way that Protestants do. But that's what they're saying, is that we're understanding that God's name represents that we have a connection to that power, because and every time a priest acts in persona Christi to perform or confer a sacrament, it isn't him doing it. It is God working through that vessel. And that is what is being represented in Exodus when God says, my name is in him. What he's saying is that this individual can act on my behalf in this circumstance. And that's what a priest does at every mass, and what a priest does at every confession. This is the same thing.
It would have been more convincing, because don't forget, we're talking about Moses at the burning bush, and a burning bush is speaking to him, right?
Yeah.
And saying, go and tell the most powerful man on earth, as far as your world is concerned, that he's got to go and let go of all of his slaves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that is a fairly daunting prospect. Moses asks a perfectly sensible question, by the way. Okay, so who shall I say has told me this, right? It's basically what, it asks for the name. The fact that this is the response, tell them I am who is has sent you, would be much more bearing in mind, yes, Moses is an Israelite, but he's not grown up with the Israelites. He's grown up with the Egyptians. Be much more convincing for the religious leaders, the theologians of the Jews under slavery under Pharaoh. Much more authentic when he says, this burning bush spoke to me, and I am who is has sent me to do this. That would have gone, right, okay. That would have chimed much more strongly as you're probably telling the truth. And the other thing to say, and it is related to the business that we do of exorcism, is we can't, to know the name of God would infer that we completely know who God is.
Right.
And that is not possible, and sacrilegious. And therefore, of course, that God's not got a proper noun. I mean, yes, when God becomes a man, he's called Jesus or Yeshua, right? In Aramaic, probably. But even that is sort of pointing to the one who saves, right? So it's even that is a sort of sign, or a sign of something else. I think if Moses had come away from that bush and said, oh, our God John has told me that we've got to go and, run away from Pharaoh, I think the Jewish leaders would have gone, get lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So, I mean, I'm deliberately not going to pronounce it because
I'm not sure anyone really knows how to pronounce it. We only have approximations.
Well, that's right. There's two main ways that English people pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
Or English-speaking people pronounce it. I'm not going to do it just because John Paul II said it's not a good idea. And so, but either way, the reason Bishop has just alluded that we don't really know how it's pronounced is because in Hebrew, the vowels are the dots under the letters, and for this word, in the scriptures there are no vowels, and so we literally don't know exactly how it was pronounced because we're only surmising what the vowels are in between the consonants. but yeah, I'm only not saying it not because it's some taboo word or some, risking some superstition. It's just because for Orthodox Jews, they never say this. They say Adonai, the Lord, which is why in most Bibles it's translated as the Lord with capitals. But yeah, it's completely consistent with the revelation of God through history and in Jesus that we can't fully know God, but God does fully know us, and He loves us.
All right, Brandon. So since you're here, I can ask you, is that a satisfactory answer to your question?
It is, for the most part, because like, of course, growing up, especially in church, I didn't know anything about it, didn't know that was a thing. So learning of it, I was wondering how it worked, as if with God, with the Tetragrammaton being a name, how was a person able to be an authorized bearer of that name if anyone could just know the name?
Well, it wasn't so much if you could know it, as much as it was whether or not it was revealed to you and you were commissioned to receive the burden of knowing it, and in a
It's
sense,
not a magic spell,
right? Exactly. It's not something it's not a talisman you take around with you, and it's like, look, I got this power to look out.
You said like evangelical Christians in Jesus' name, as though the name of Jesus is a magic spell.
Yeah.
If that was so, then anyone they prayed for who didn't have the gift of faith, and they said, "Oh, we pray that you have the gift of faith in Jesus' name," they'd instantly, magically, know that Jesus is their Lord and God and Savior. They're not talismans. They're not magic words. It's a process. It's why basically, God says, "I am the very act of being itself." This is what Aquinas develops this into. So, because I am, ego eimi, is what Jesus answers, by the way. Are you the Messiah? Ego eimi, I am, and then he gets crucified.
Yeah,
because that will get you crucified. So I am the very act of being itself is sending me. So it's like, I don't know how else to say it. It's not a proper noun. It's not like being called Brandon.
But it is like getting baptized and taking on the burden of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that's exactly what it is. It's why baptism is an allegory for actual death, because it is taking on the burden of the cross, and of course all of its victories too. So
the perishable takes on the imperishable.
Yeah, and that's exactly the same thing. It's just in Old Testament times, that part of the revelation hadn't been revealed yet. So it was operating on a different principle than it does now, where now that Christ has come, God's name is far more accessible, and the procedures in which that is received is much more accessible. It doesn't require some kind of like direct commission, other than the fact that all men are now called, all men and women are now called to receive the name. It's not for special people.
Sorry, we're really riffing off each other here.
Yeah,
because you said all people are called. That literally the name for the group of the Israelites in the Old Testament is the Kahal.
Yeah.
The call.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, in Hebrew, and in the New Testament we get the word ecclesia, which is essentially the same thing.
Same thing.
So it's about the called. Moses in this instance is called by the God of Abraham. By the way, he does also say that. I'm the God of Abraham. I'm the God. That I'm this same God that all these people have had that has been revealed to these people. So he didn't just go and say, I am who is told me this. He said he also told me that he was the God of Abraham and all of your forefathers.
Sure. And we also need to remember, I think Christians forget this, is that the Old Testament is there for only one reason, to show you where you came from. It doesn't really hold any authority beyond what the New Testament gives it, because it's been fulfilled, not it's been completed. It hasn't been canceled out, but it's been completed, not nullified, fulfilled. And so
And
therefore,
to be a bit anti-Protestant here,
yeah.
because they've gone sola scriptura,
Hmm.
they have to make out of the Old Testament what should not be. They place too much weight on the Old Testament
Far too
because
much.
they've said we can only Bible alone, and they realize that that's insufficient when it comes to the gospel, because we need the magisterium of the church, we need the witnesses of the saints through the ages, the encyclicals, the whatever, the ecumenical councils, all of those things, which the Holy Spirit has formed and guided. If you cut yourself off from that, you have to sort of retrofit it from the Old Testament, and so they end up abusing the Old Testament.
Oh, absolutely.
We see that all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly,
Why they preach on it all the time.
The fire
They
and
do.
brimstone Old Testament preachers.
it's almost as if they know the Old Testament, and don't know the New Testament at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's the origin, because they've gone sola scriptura, and that there's not enough within if you're going to be, especially the way they look at the scriptures, a very narrow viewing of the scriptures of the New Testament. That's why they have to go to the Old,
Yeah.
and pick out sorry to use the word, but pick out esoteric stories
Yeah.
between characters. They sort of do the what's it called? When you meditate on the scriptures,
Lectio Divina.
you know,
Yeah. Lectio Divina. Lectio
They do
Divina.
that on the Old Testament, imagining these really like obscure characters, interactions in the Old Testament. I think that's a really, you're going to get some pretty screwy ways of thinking about God if you do that.
Yeah. Because it's just not the way you use it. It's not the way it was intended to be
Not
used.
to mention the Talmud and the Mishnah
Yeah.
do actually exist. So if you want to exist in the Old Testament,
I mean, yeah,
that's already been done.
Well, it's like sometimes I'm like, well, maybe you should just go become Jewish, because it seems like that would
that's right.
that would serve you
Yeah.
better, You get a lot of that, but that's kind of, I think that's the best way to answer that one. Where the name is now accessible, the commission is acceptable, the burden is now accessible. So. Baptism is how it's found now. All right, what's our next question?
Well, the next question comes from Tiffany, and she asked, what is the esoteric reason for wearing black during an exorcism?
Okay, well, it's not so much in regards to exorcism, because the clerical color of a priest is black. The black, we call it, even the colloquial term is that blacks, they call them, I'm wearing my blacks today. It's sort of the uniform of the priest, right? We've all seen it. Bishops wear it too. And it's really to draw attention away from oneself, even though in today's time, I don't think it really serves that purpose. In fact, I think it does the opposite.
No, makes you,
It makes you actually stand out.
Yeah.
But it was originally because in the Middle Ages, which is a lot of where these kinds of norms come from, color was, we think of the medieval times as being like these Spartan castles, all gray and dark and dingy and everything else. They were not like that. It looks like that today because we only see the ruins, but they were very colorful. The medieval populations loved color. And so they wore very colorful outfits. The wealthier you were, the more color you could indulge yourself in. And so even the walls were decked out with bright colors. I mean, it would be almost gaudy to us.
Puritans that whitewashed them.
It was the Puritans. You're right about that.
I'm sorry, Americans. We then
you sent them to us.
Exported them to America.
Yeah, and so now we're stuck with all of this shit. And what do we got? We got drywall here now. We got the most boring, ugly houses that you could ever say. Drywall. It's always white, right? But no, color was a big thing, and it would be gaudy to people's sensibilities today, the way that medieval people would have decorated their homes and themselves. But in order to show the lack of worldliness and the lack of attention on oneself, priests would wear black, which is, again, as we talked about earlier, the negation of color, the absence of color. And it was a way of just showing humility. And that's the only point to it. Now, that's not to say that esoterically speaking, metaphysically speaking, that there isn't still spiritual value in it, because the archetypes still speak through these principles, even though modern concepts have changed. So now it's like black's kind of a cool look, right? So people will, I mean, have you ever seen a paranormal investigator that isn't always decked out in black? I mean, they're always decked out in black. I've got a reason for it, but
they're imitating the church. That's why.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's to get that mystique, and they made it look cool. But the fact is, today it makes you stand out like a sore thumb. Yeah. Back then, it was to show that you weren't a worldly person. But demonic entities do still respond to it and recognize it for what it is, and it alarms them. I can tell you right now, if a priest could go in jeans and a t-shirt, and let's make this, just to make it clear, a white t-shirt, and perform an exorcism and probably still get the job done. But initially, you have a harder time because...
Make sure you have your stole.
The stole is a big part of it.
T-shirt.
Yeah. But even without a stole, I mean, the stole is just, again, these are signs of the priesthood. The demonic response to these signs in a very adverse way weakens them. And a priest that's operating correctly could still get the job done. However, an exorcist is very much aided by all the symbols, because the demonic responds to those symbols at a higher level that isn't even seen. And so already you're coming in with an edge, as long as you're operating correctly within that sphere of that modality of the church. Of course, you have to have the valid orders in order to be able to exercise it at all. But the fact is, demons do see that clerical outfit, and it bothers them. I think that's why when you go out in public and you get really hostile responses, because people have attachments.
Now, when I was in orders and had my blacks, I always thought of it as almost like putting on your armor.
Yeah.
And I always pictured it as it would repel the darts of the enemy, so to speak. So to me, I put that mental thing, like when I put on the Cossack and getting ready to go in with him with something, and had my pectoral cross and walked in there, I felt like I was literally a knight dressed for battle walking in, and that armor was going to repel any attacks that would have come at me. That's how I thought of it.
Yeah. And because it is, in a way,
and black absorbs. I think of it as absorbing the negativity and just dissipating it.
Yeah. Father, I mean, I'm sure you have found the same to be true in your work, that, when you're dressed
of course,
clerically.
The most extraordinary thing, and it's a bit outside of this but related, is that, and I think we've spoken about it before, that even when I'm dressed like this, demons recognize me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah,
that's true.
And so they know who I am, and that's actually quite a sobering thought, because it thinks, I've never been one that goes, "Oh, I'll dress down to make people feel comfortable." I think that's nonsense. I mean, just be who you are, and if you're a priest, dress like one. It's interesting if you think you can sort of. It's not like a policeman going undercover, right? Or being a detective and wearing civilian clothing, and people might not. Well, even then, as Jamie will attest, crooks still know you're a cop. People here still assume I am a cop. It's only when they hear my accent they think, oh, maybe he wasn't an Australian.
No. When I was undercover, I fooled quite a few people.
Well, that's a different skill set. Yeah. I could never do it. But all I'm saying is that for priests there is no undercover. It just doesn't work.
No, that's true. There isn't.
Nor should it.
I mean, there's times where I just don't want the attention.
Right. I wish there was.
Yeah. Around here, it's a very negative connotation. So I try to avoid it, because it actually has the opposite effect. It's not like people look at you and say, oh, there's it actually, people have already made up their mind as to what they think that means. And then they make up their mind about you.
Paul is with you on that. Be all things to all men for the sake of
Yeah.
Christ, you know.
Yeah.
So there's no. Sorry, I'm talking about the spiritual dimension.
Oh yeah,
of
no, the
priest
spiritual
kind of-
aspect. I mean, when I'm
yeah.
working in that capacity, I absolutely
Yeah.
will wear
can't hide,
usually
yeah.
the cassock. If I'm out and about, I don't wear the cassock. But if I'm just in retreat house or whatever, I don't usually wear the clerical blacks. I just wear the cassock, and I think that's
Interestingly, in this country, there are priests who are not given parishes because they wore cassocks in their parish and their people didn't like
didn't
it.
like it.
And
Wow.
if people can't see
really?
that is a spiritual fight, I don't know what to tell
It's
you.
ridiculous. It's
Wow.
unbelievable because they have attachments. They have attachments. That's what it is. All these people, they think they're good Christians. They have attachments, and because if they're responding negatively to that, it's
There's
attachments.
something wrong with them.
Something wrong with them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So we're a little over time, but I want to take a moment to actually say this because you guys tonight are going to get a preview of my latest song that I've been working on. I did put out a very early piano piece several weeks ago of this song when I was working on it. I hadn't really had a lot of time to practice with it, but I had the concept and I wrote it. It started with Tracy. She wrote a lyric and she wanted me to put it to music. And so this is the piece that came to me and I developed it further. And then, you know, through the magic of AI can then get a taste for what it would sound like if we had a full production studio and a professional singer working with it, because I sure as hell can't sing this stuff. You know, I don't have the voice for the kind of music I write, you know, it's just, I just simply don't. So what I did was I took her lyrics and I adapted it a little bit because, you know, when you write a song for lyrics, it's easier to actually write lyrics for a song than it is to write a song for lyrics. You have to make some adaptions because, you know, certain syllables just don't fit. And when you actually hear it played out, it doesn't sound right. So you have to change a word here or there. So this song becomes available, I believe it's tonight at midnight or tomorrow at midnight. I have to check. I'm not sure. It's either tonight or tomorrow. And you can get it anywhere you can get music. So iTunes, Apple Music, you can listen to it on YouTube Music as well as Spotify. It'll be everywhere where you can get it. And that is, the song is called, Were You Even Here? Excuse me. My voice is starting to dry out from the desert. It's from the desert. Were You Even Here? And that song is my latest one. I like how this one came out. Again, you know, people sometimes will criticize, you know, using AI at all for music. And I really think what it comes down to is these people are threatened by it. Because look, I'm not taking any jobs. And you know, they're like, you should be making money. It's like, look, I all these songs, I only publish them on the main platforms just so that there's the copyright. You know, it protects my work. I've made 67 cents to date, so I'm not making money on this. Okay, I do
down,
it. I mean, I know I made 67 cents on all my music. Okay,
The tax man.
I know. I know. Don't tell the
Can't
tax
believe
man.
you said it on live on
Oh,
air.
my
Yeah, no,
goodness.
yeah. It's
There we
you know, I'm
go.
doomed now.
You're gonna get robbed.
I'm going to get robbed. So
Don't gamble it away.
I know.
either.
I know. Don't gamble
If
it
you don't live
away.
in New York City, Mondami be coming for you.
So, you know, look, it's because I don't have a production studio. I don't make music my lifestyle. Okay. I've made other choices in my life. Maybe I could have been a great musician one day. I don't consider myself a musician. I just have thoughts and I like hearing those thoughts be played out. And, you know, I'm not a great pianist or anything. I just enjoy the hobby of it and, you know, kind of creating music and seeing what it would sound like if I had all of the you know, the ability of a full production studio, all that professional help. AI now gives me the chance to do that. And I see AI as just a tool. It's like people get upset with AI are the same kind of mentality of people that don't like guns. It's like, look, you can blame guns for all the evils in the world, but ultimately it's just a tool. And if you use it the wrong way, well, it's the person using it the wrong way. It's not the tool. Same thing with AI. Okay. It's a tool. You can use it the wrong way. I'm using it in a creative way. And I think it's done some great things in that sense. It gives you a chance to hear the music the way I hear it in my head, rather than me just play, marginally on a piano, and you're like, well, this is what I'm hearing, but picture this as a big production. You're never going to hear it the right way. But with AI, I can make it sound the way it sounds in my head. So tonight you're going to hear this song. It's the first song that I've written in a while. Okay. Were You Even Here? And available on all the platforms either tonight or tomorrow. By tomorrow, you can get it, okay? We'll be right back after this. Enjoy.
Dawn is gray, heaviness gathers around, recessing away into thoughts that pull me down. Pressure builds and crests, darkening storms around. Heaviness in my chest, 1,000 tears falling to the ground. Did you really love them when they called out for you? Did you really love them when they fled? Did you really love them when they turned on you? Will you still love them when you're Nights forever gray, heavy air still gathers around. I must pull myself away. I fear that I might drown the Pressure never ends. Storms form in my mind. The heaviness of this pain, a search for peace I may never find. Did you really love them when they called out for you? Did you really love them when they fled? Did you really love them when they turned on you? Will you still love them when you're in a cycle, I cannot focus, losing patience every day. In the end, I know the reason for why I cannot trust you. You're choking on your words. Don't act like you're concerned. You know what you have done, so don't act like you're a victim. Not falling for your trap. No, I cannot reason with the psychopath. So let me walk away. Just let me walk away. I don't wanna argue with you. Don't gotta be too far away. You're so far away. Far away from reality. Far away. You're so far away. Far away from reality.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second hour of Vestiges After Dark on this second summer special of the year 2026. All right, so hopefully you've been asking questions. I don't know. I mean, I haven't been looking at the chat. So if you've got questions, ask them now. Or you can call them to the show at 207-544-1983. That's 207-544-1983. I'll have that number up on the screen for those of you who do wish to call in. And our moderators are checking all of the chat rooms across the internet, be it TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. If you don't have any questions, well, I've got some interesting stuff that I can talk about over here. So we'll get through the episode one way or the other. Okay? So more to come. Don't go away. I hope everybody liked that song. Again, I understand the criticisms. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I understand the criticisms for AI music. That you've got these people that will go into these AI platforms and literally write a one-sentence prompt and let the AI spit out some wonderful song for them, and then they claim that they wrote it and that they're now musicians and everything. I understand that. That is problematic and not less than honest from any, realistic standpoint. That is not creativity. That is not art. However, a person like myself who actually spends, weeks or months at the piano writing songs, again, I don't have the time or really even the interest of putting the investment into getting this music produced in a professional capacity. I just do it as a hobby, and to share it with those of you out there who do enjoy it. There's a few of you that do. To be able to write this on the piano, write some lyrics. Usually I write the lyrics, but this time it was Tracy, and to be able to give both the music and the lyrics to the AI, and then use the various tools to fine tune it to be the piece that I would want to hear if I were using a professional studio. That's a completely different type of art form and creativity, which I think is true creativity. And there's a lot of people, I would venture to say more people who are serious about it that are using it this way. Okay. I know some guitarists that are actually far better guitarists than I'm a pianist. And, they use AI to listen to what their songs would be like if they were able to go and do it on a professional scale. So I don't see anything wrong with using a tool like AI for something like that. But I can understand where people do get annoyed when iTunes or Apple Music or whatever is being inundated with people claiming to write music when all they did is put a prompt in and the AI spit it out and they downloaded it. That is happening, unfortunately.
TikTok's covered up in it.
Yeah.
You listen, and some of this stuff's pretty good.
Oh yeah, AI writes great music.
You'll find new music, and I'll go to hunt the artist, and then I'll find out it's an AI generated artist.
Now,
I mean, is it creatively any different from I grew up in the 80s, like all the best people.
Yes.
Sorry. Is it any different from, like, we had Stock Aitken and Waterman in England, and basically they'd find the latest pretty soap star and produce 3 albums with her, like, how is that any different? I mean, that's essentially at that time. Okay, they sort of put their prompt into their songwriters.
That's how the Spice Girls came about, if I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. And session musicians and all that. I mean, what's the difference? I guess paying a session musician at least gives.
It's because they're getting. I think it really comes down to the industry, not being able to. Well, I mean, I think they like. I think the industry has liked being like, only we can do this, and now anybody can do this. They can, I mean, listen to that. That music does not sound like an AI singer. It does not, I mean, she sings, if you notice, that AI voice sings all my songs. Yeah. You know, and
Hey, she's got good vibes.
I am a musician.
Yeah.
So I do kind of, I play piano, guitar, I sing.
Yeah.
You know,
have you ever tried using AI to create, like, see what it sounds like with that stuff?
Yeah. And hey, I'm currently using AI. I mean, I've written classical music as like score.
Yeah.
I can do all that. But I've actually been using AI to help me write a mass setting for the modern Roman Rite.
Oh, there you go.
Because most of the ones I hear I can't stand, and so I think, well, maybe God has given you the inclination to learn music for a reason.
Maybe.
So yeah, but I'm using AI to do that just because, I mean, I know how to write it on staves in every clef,
Sure.
and set it to an orchestra or to a choir of voices. But actually AI can do that an awful lot quicker.
Yeah, and that's not your primary duty, right? So you don't have time to spend doing all of that.
But I come up with the idea of a tune, and as far as I'm concerned, AI can do that, but I don't think it does it as well as a human being.
No, I mean, you know,
it mimics. It's not creative.
Yeah, and see, that was one of the other criticisms. They're saying that AI stole other artists' work to copy and then you redistribute
That's
towards
a
this.
problem.
It is a different problem, but you know, some of them are actually going into licensed agreements now.
Oh, really?
And the one that I use does.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. So that means that people are getting paid for their contributions or anything. But I mean, even the argument has been, and I think it's a good argument. I mean, people might disagree with me on it, but the argument that the AI industry has stated against the accusations that they're stealing artists' work is, how is it any different if a computer is learning off of what's been established before? Isn't that how every musician learns? I mean, isn't that how every artist learns to do something? I remember
everybody has an influence from some artist.
When we were in, like, I took a lot of artistic extra, well, when you have your free credits in college, you know, you can do your electives, right? Rather than spend more time doing things that I didn't want to learn, I spent those electives on artistic ones. So I took photography, you know, learned how to actually develop film with real film. You know,
that's fun.
It is fun. And I did oils and watercolors. And I didn't do any music, but I mean, it's something I could have done. And, you know, I can tell you from all of those classes, it was all about copying other artists' work and learning based upon their techniques so that you could make your own techniques stronger. And then eventually you develop your own style, but not until you've learned, you know, what the masters have done. It's the same thing that children learn to speak. I mean, even your accent comes from hearing what you've heard before and duplicating it. So naturally, if a computer is going to simulate human intelligence, which is what AI promises it does, it's going to have to learn the same way. And why are we upset about that? Why? Because it's not a real person. You know,
it reminds me of the discussions around Bob Dylan using an electric guitar.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's nothing natural about an electric guitar. It's a technology that was, well, there's nothing natural about guitar, by the way. They don't grow out of the bloody ground, do they?
Right.
You know, I mean, so you know, we can see the ancestor of the guitar, the lute, and how that's, you know, we still call people that make guitars lutists, by the way. And so, you know, we can see how the technology develops.
Yeah.
But this is why I'm not frightened of it. I mean, you know, I use AI in my other job, to produce text, and I can get annoyed that now people expect text to sound like AI, which is bloody annoying. If you're classically educated, you think, oh, this sentence is awful, but from a functionary point of view, it doesn't matter. From a creative point of view, I'm not threatened by that. I mean,
and no one should be. No one should be, because look, we in my class that I teach, we built a tarot deck from scratch, and it wasn't a standard deck. It was based upon the primary archetypes according to the esoteric system that I was teaching them, or it still do teach. And so we decided, well, let's do a tarot deck that sort of, or an oracle deck that sort of covers these archetypes, specifically the ones that we deal with. And this was when AI was far more rudimentary. So it's almost time to do it again, because now we could produce a really nice deck. Whereas back then you had to really be creative to try to get it the way you wanted to. And so we did this. And you know, I was criticized by several people about using the AI to create the art for it. And particularly since I could have done it myself. But I mean, I don't have time to sit in front of a canvas and create 100 different paintings for this work. And, you know, I asked several real artists if they would work with me. Some of them said yes. Some of them said no. Nobody completed it. So we ended up, it was like, okay, well then let's just use AI, because AI is more than willing and capable, and we did it. And it was as simple as that. I mean, am I taking jobs away? Well, they didn't seem to want the job. And honestly, look, the deck wasn't there to make money. It was there to serve my students. So it was really a charity work anyway, and nobody wants to do that kind of work for charity. But the AI doesn't care if it's charity or not. It works for free anyway. So that was the way we looked at it. I don't see a problem with that. It's a tool. So use the tool correctly. You can use it wrong. Yeah, okay. It's wrong to go out there and type a prompt into an AI generator, get a song, download it, and say that you wrote that. That's wrong. I agree. But you know, most people are not using it that way. People like myself, who are just amateur, you know, songwriters or whatever, are just using it to be able to hear what their work would sound like if we were doing it in a more professional way. And it's fun to do. And I think, you know, a lot of you have enjoyed. I've even people have asked me when I'm going to get the CDs out for this. It's like, there's never going to be any CDs. Okay. There's not enough interest for that, but you can download all the songs from iTunes.
Has a CD player now.
I mean, right. I mean, really, maybe some old cars, but you know, it's like, I'm kind of like, you know, download the music and burn it to, if you get a CD burner, burn it to your own, you know, your own disc. I mean, you can do that. Anyway, so this is the way it is. And I hope you guys enjoyed the song, and, you know, there'll be more to come when I write my next one. I'll do it the same way, and I'll, you know, Vestiges will always get the sneak peek. You guys will always get to hear it first. Okay. So do we have any questions before we get into anything else tonight?
I think we have two.
Okay.
They're both, one was addressing April and Brandon.
Is that the first one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What
was that question?
I lost it. April, do you still have it?
It says
Okay,
it's asking if either of us have any kind of interesting investigations to talk about.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, go for it. Do you have any interesting
You've had
investigations
a few here lately.
We have had a few.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about Brandon, but I'll have to say probably one of the newest techniques that we learn from you, Bishop, when we do our investigations from now on,
Okay.
is if there's a spirit that's there that's not supposed to be, we're going to tell it to get the hell out of there.
I don't think I used the word hell, but you got the idea.
Guys, it was like an angry homeowner kicking out the vacuum salesperson or something. It's like, just get out.
So to kind of give context, we were actually at the retreat house earlier.
I'm so sorry.
month,
This
I think.
stupid spring here. I'm sorry about that if that hurt anyone's ears. Go ahead. I'm sorry, April.
You're fine. We were at the retreat house earlier this month, and we were just kind of sitting around talking, and we always are hearing popping and, you know, sounds like people walking up the stairs and all sorts of things. So we did an impromptu investigation. And, you know, Bishop and Jamie had brought some of their new equipment with them. And so we decided to test it out. And we had, using the SLS camera, we had picked up something that was on the couch in there. And it was like hanging out with Levi. And so he picked whatever it was up and threw it out the door. But then we went back to one of the rooms back in there, and on the spirit box portal, we kept getting something trying to talk to us, and we were asking, like, why are you here and do you need help? Well, the answer we got was no. And so Bishop's like, well, if you don't want help, then you need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, we had the our two latest pieces of equipment that we've added to our collection of equipment for investigations like this is the newest version of the SLS camera, which is a lot better than the original one, which is the
Sure
one we used to
is.
have. My God, it's so much more
Oh
stable,
my gosh.
and it actually gives you a better perspective on what you see, and it's not as sensitive to anomalies. So that's always good to get a more accurate read. And I think the more interesting tool is really the Portal J, which is one of these devices that filters out all of the static noise from an SB11 or an SB7, or any spirit box, really, any kind that you would use. All that static that you hear, when you're trying to run between sweeps of channels, this filters all of that out, and you just get the voices. And so we were getting some interesting responses back, and this person kept saying that they need help getting out, but they wouldn't
Let
leave.
me out.
Yeah, let me out. It's like, well, then get the hell out, right?
Yeah, we were trying to, kid gloves, be nice, try to figure out what the guy needs, and finally Bishop's had enough. He's like, you know what? If you don't need us, bounce, and he did.
Well, that's it, because it was like, if we asked if they needed prayers, if they needed help moving on, and it got very hostile about that.
Yeah,
And
there's
so,
definite agitation.
so in that point, it's like, okay, I'm not putting up with any bullshit. Okay. And so my response to that is, I'm nice to you until you're no longer worth being nice to. And I treat the living the same way. So it's, it's like shake the dust from your feet very, very seriously. I think more Christians would do well to remember that. And remember, look, even with poverty, okay, I know I was watching this documentary. I didn't want to get political, but I'll mention this just because it is relative. But there's Seattle has this basically this outward socialist mayor, okay, and her solution to
is what they have.
Yeah, her solution to all of the problems in Seattle with the homeless and the drug abuse is to relocate them into Chinatown and just keep them there, so that all these wonderful Chinese businesses are now suffering because everyone's too afraid to go to any of these businesses because of
They won't put up with that for long.
She
I hope
must have
not.
she must have been a fan of that show The Wire.
I know,
That's
right?
exactly what they did in Baltimore.
Well, she must have seen it and
and it
copied
didn't work.
It doesn't work. But anyway, she's out there, and this is what they're doing. Okay. And the real issue, I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? What was it? Why did I bring this up?
Welcome to Manopause.
Oh my
sir.
gosh, no.
SLS camera.
SLS
Yes,
camera.
talk about how great the
Oh,
SLS
right.
cameras
Right.
got.
Okay. So while they were out there investigating this issue, these very hostile, ultra liberal activists came over and started harassing the news crew for even airing the story, and they saw it as exploitation of these mentally ill people. And they were, mind you, they were being attacked. One had a gun pointed at them. So this was definitely a problematic area. Okay. And they were being defended by these liberals driving by in their Mercedes-Benz and their BMWs, who probably never had a hardship in their entire life. Okay. And so, their attitude is that Christian charity would say, oh no, we got to take care of these people. But I'm going to tell you from my own personal experience, okay, before I was a priest, before I was involved in the life I live now, I used to live in Las Vegas, and for a very short period of time, one of my duties out there was because I had some of that almost liberal ideology, liberal idealism is what I meant to say, where, let's make the world better. We have the power to do this. There's no reason why we can't.
It's based on a good motive.
It is based on a good motive. And so I understand it. I understand because I used to be like that. I used to be like that. I mean, I've never been really a true liberal, but I've always been moderate enough where I can see both sides. And I saw, working in social services, you're around a lot of liberal thought, and so I understood it, and it didn't offend me in any way. And I wanted to be better because my Christian values, even though I wasn't a practicing Christian at that time, was still to help people. And so one of the populations I served while I was in Vegas was the homeless population. And it wasn't very long that I realized that none of these people wanted a lick of help. What they wanted was the means to continue the lifestyle that they were living, which was to get drugs as quickly as possible.
Which was killing them.
Which was killing them. And there was not a goddamn thing I could do about it. And I say it like that because that's exactly the way that I had to deal with it. Okay.
Welcome
because
to the frustrations of law enforcement, Bishop.
It pissed me off to the degree that it's like, you know what? Then the hell with you all, because I have given my life, dedicated my life to helping all these people, and you just throw it right back in my face. And to the point that why I left was because they tried to kill me. They tried to attack my wife, and they tried to kill me. And all I was there to do is help them. And even the volunteers that were supposedly working for me were actually subversively supplying these individuals with the very drugs that that I was there to help them get off. And then, so that upset these individuals. And mind you, they were driving their Hummers and all this was back then when Hummers were big, and all living these privileged lifestyles, of course. And so, yeah, that really pissed me the hell off. And so I can tell you right now that from that step forward, it's like, well, I'm not going to abandon Christian charity. But you know what I am going to do? I'm shaking the dust from my feet. So show me one example in Scripture. Show me one. You won't be able to find one, by the way. So here's your hint. Show me one where Jesus went out of his way to help someone who didn't want it. Not one.
It's the opposite.
It's always the
always
opposite.
Says, what do you want me to do
Yeah.
for you? It's
Yeah.
the best thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how this gets lost by people who are inspired by Christianity.
Because they don't really know it, Father. They don't really know it.
Because I do that. When I was in very, very public ministry, in a parish church where everyone comes in, you can say it's lazy, you can say it's wise. I used to say, what do you want me to do for you?
Yep.
And then the next one, what do you want God to do for you? And really, if the answer is, I just want you to give me money so I can go and get some drugs or alcohol, the answer is no.
At least to be honest.
I had a professor in university that was you think I'm a libertarian. He was beyond me. He was as libertarian as one could get. And, he owned this very large property with farm, and he did a lot of stuff. Okay, he had a whole production going on and had a lot of staff that would work this property. And what he used to do is he'd go around the area, and of course he'd find panhandlers, right? Because every big city has them, and they're always at the intersections of highways, as you're trying to get on an exit or something, or get off, you'll see them there. And, they'd have these signs, that they, have 3 kids at home or whatever. Or someone would even say, we'll work for food. And then he'd go and he'd offer them work, and they wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
They wanted the money. And if he didn't give, they didn't want the work. And he had a pickup truck. He's like, get in right now. I can even give you a place to stay. They outright refused him over and over and over again. And see, that's not Christian charity. And what that professor did was Christian charity. He offered freely a solution to their problem, and they didn't take it. His obligation at that point ends. Christian obligation at that point ends. When they don't want it, you don't have to give it anymore.
There's a couple of, there's 4 main homeless. Well, I don't think they are homeless, but 4 main sort of street people, shall we say, in the suburb where I live. One is clearly mentally disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
He carries bags around, never speaks, and it's interesting because my wife a couple of years ago at Christmas offered him some money. It was Christmas, like I'd never seen him drunk or anything like that, by the way. And he said to her, "No thanks, I've got everything I need."
Yeah.
And it dawned on me, he's never once begged. He's not a beggar. Okay, he lives on the streets and he doesn't want to talk to people. And so clearly there's something going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of person that you could help, right? Yep. There's another one, and actually he's not homeless because I know where he lives, because I am an ex-cop, and so I'm quite good at figuring these things out.
Yeah.
And he over the road, and when before the youngest left home, She used to get woken up every day by this guy because he'd stand there and he'd hold a guitar. He couldn't play it, but he'd hold a guitar, and he just and he's still out there now. And all he says is change, change, and what he means is you got any loose change, but he just says change. And now I've never given him a penny, and I never will. But I have said, it's an interesting mantra you've got there. You might want to listen to yourself.
Yeah. See, that's
because it's false compassion. You give people money who are doing nothing and who've got a meaningless, pointless existence. That's not. If it makes you feel better, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm moved for these people. Don't misunderstand.
Oh yeah.
I'm sad that he's in that position.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to help him by giving him some money.
Well, because it won't.
Or the other one who's a physically able man about my age, and he sits cross-legged by the cash machine, the ATM, and asks people for money.
The last time I gave money to a panhandler,
get a job.
The last time I gave money to a panhandler was a long time ago. But it was the only time I really said, you're being so freaking honest with me. You deserve it. He had a sign that said, "Don't care, just want a beer." That's all he said.
I would go get that.
I did. I bought that man a beer.
I would go get that man a beer. At least you're honest.
You're at least being honest with me. Yeah, you deserve a beer for that. But that's a different kind of thing. See, it's like Christian charity, and I think this is the hypocrisy of the critics of the church coming being like, oh well, all these conservatives don't want to do anything for society because all these conservative Christians, they talk a big talk but they don't do anything. And it's like, what you want is not what Christian charity is. Christian charity is not government mandated charity. Christian charity is not tax dollar money. Christian charity is not force feeding people into, taking it or ideology. The reality.
It's much harder.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be always freely received. Okay. That's Christian charity. And yes, all Christians are absolutely obligated to give freely when one is in need and will freely receive. But you are under no obligations when the kind of help that really you're given, the kind of help that they don't want, and they turn it down. Your obligation ends that day, that moment. And that's true for every situation. Sometimes people ask me about, honoring your father and mother when your father and mother are assholes and treated you like shit all your life. And, you have no relationship with them. And so how do I honor them? Okay. You don't have to. Not in that sense. You honor them by not giving anybody in that relationship occasion to sin again, by staying out of each other's way.
You honor them the same way you honor God.
Well, that's
basically
true. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, why don't you explain what you mean by that so that it's clear to everybody?
Yeah. So the only way that you can have any honor at all is, in other words, honoring your father and mother is almost the opposite of what most people think it means. Yeah. It means you've grown the hell up so you know how to behave as a responsible human being.
Yeah, you honor them by not being
a douche. That's how you honor your father and your mother. Yeah. It's not about whether you phone them 3 times a day and ask how they are.
Yeah.
I mean, bloody hell. If you do, by the way, if your parents doing that to you and even if you're 18, it's like, you need to stretch those apron strings, right? Because honoring them means becoming independent of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's great if you can have a great relationship with everybody, right? But you honor your father and mother by becoming a rational, decent human being, which is why I said it's by honoring God, because that's the only way. That's the only honor that's worth anything. It's by becoming as fully formed as you can as a servant of Jesus Christ. That's how you honor your father and your mother and yourself, by the way.
I remember also that professor, and this was back in the mid-90s. Okay. This professor said he had a buddy that would actually go and dress up like a bum. All right. And go sit. And he did it for a week. Yeah, actually he did it for a month. I'm sorry. He did it for a month. He did it for 4 weeks. In those 4 weeks, he averaged about $700 a week in little donations in the panhandling process. So these people that are doing this, I'm not saying all of them are making that much money, but at least in that location, and this was back in the mid 90s. I mean, $700 went a long way a week. I mean, I know people that didn't make that in a week in the 90s. You know, that's very problematic. Okay, that is not Christian charity, and so I don't even remember how we got on this tangent, but I think it's really important to keep a check on ourselves as to what these things really mean. And remember, when it comes to Christian obligation, it always has to be freely given and freely received. It can never, remember, simony works both ways. You think of simony as just charging for sacraments or something, and it is, and that's the truest definition. But, you know, there's a kind of simony that comes with you know, trying to push a solution onto someone who does not want it. And even beating yourself up for not being able to give it. You know, there are people that are like that. I've known people that get very scrupulous, so they go out of their way. And I think that's what a lot of well-meaning, ultra-liberal people are trying to do. I really do not take the opinion that a lot of conservatives do, that all these, you know, liberals are nut jobs out there, you know, with radical opinions and trying to, like, destroy society. I mean, I don't think that that's their motivation. I think the majority of us, I think there are some that are like that, but I think the majority of them think they're doing some good, but they just don't understand
most damage
it.
is done by people who think they're doing good,
Yeah.
but they're actually damaging things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the word charity, I mean, I'm probably equally as radical as you on this. I would go further and say that all of the government programs and handouts and all the rest of it fundamentally undermines charity.
I think so.
Partly because if you're being taxed to death to pay for these schemes, you've got less money to give. You know, you've literally got less money to give of your own for genuine charity. And also you think, well, the government does that, so why should I? And so I think it's like a two-pronged attack on charity. And I mention this because, again, the word charity is from the word caritas, right? The Latin word, which is translated as love. You know, now in 1 Corinthians 13, faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love, you know, the very famous passage. That the word love there is actually charity, and in the authorized version of the Bible it says faith, hope, and charity, actually. So it's actually an aspect of love. And again, the beginning of what 1 Corinthians 13 tells you how it can be misaligned, you know, because if I speak in the tongues of angels and of men, I have all wisdom and knowledge, but do not have love, I'm like a clanging gong, a crashing cymbal. You know, and that's what happens. You misalign it and you confuse sentimentality with true love, charitable caritas love, which can only come from God and therefore must serve God. And before you know it, you think you're doing something nice for somebody, but in fact you're harming them and you're not loving them at all. And you feel good about it because your thoughts are misaligned. And then you double down and you make it worse.
Absolutely right. So all this to say, to circle back around, when I come across a spirit that tells me I don't want your fucking help. If I remember, it was some kind of vulgar word. I think it said I don't want your fucking help.
Yeah, that word was used. I can't remember what exactly.
It was something to that effect, as I recall.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you tell me that, it's like, okay, well then, you know, then you can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not here to play any more games. At this point, you need to go. So I don't care if it's a living person, a spirit, whoever, you know, at that point, Christian charity ends. And then at that point, it's the preservation of peace, which is the most Christian thing you could possibly do. You know, and that's why. So if it sounds a little harsh, and if I seem a little harsh, well, I'm not a conventional bishop, so you have to accept that. But at the same time, there's a reason to my method. Okay, there's a method to the madness, if you want to call it that. I don't see it as madness. I see it as absolute perfect order. But the reason it is the way that it is because there's no breathing room on this one. Okay, I don't give any. It's a no tolerance policy. So as soon as
Jesus said to those demons, "Silence, be gone."
Be gone. Yeah, it was one and done, right? And that's it. Be gone, Satan. Right. All right. So April, I'm sure you have more stories. So keep going.
Yeah. So Brandon had posted one. You want to talk about that one, Brandon?
Yeah, so the last big investigation we did was in a smaller town called Lynchburg, where you can investigate a funeral home and a kind of a jail cell that they used to use. And during that night, one of the people over the investigation were talking about how there's this a negative spirit residing in one of the cells in the prison area. And so we do what we do best. We go straight to there because that's what we like doing. And one of the members of our group at the time is not a psychic, but more of like a sensitive, more of an empathic than I am. And so she had said that this particular entity kind of felt like he was in like the cell that he's reported to have been in. And so I took a page from your playbook, Bishop, and I brought the holy water and just started kind of spraying it all over. And apparently I upset it, to which I did it again. So I enjoyed that night.
I
Yeah.
think I think that same entity, we had all kinds of different gadgets set up too. And I remember at one point saying like the Lord's Prayer and everything was spiking to red. So it's like it did not like that at all.
St. Michael's Prayer, Lord's Prayer, Hail Mary.
And you'll find that, I mean, that's one of our methodologies, honestly. It's like, people can make all sorts of claims and say they've got demons and they've got this and they got that going on in their home. But until we go and actually try some of these techniques ourselves, you don't really know how authentic it is until you actually get down there and do it. And one of the things that does work very effectively is splashing holy water around. It is a powerful thing when wielded by the faithful. I mean, holy water is nothing but water, wielded by someone who has no actual baptismal connection. I mean, it's a connection of one's own baptism. So what you're doing when you sprinkle holy water around is you are extending the grace of your baptism to that space. And that is one thing that genuine evil does not want anything to do with. It is incompatible with it. And so it will act out in response to that action. So it's very effective as a means of trying to determine the severity of a situation, but at the same time, it has the added effect of usually getting rid of whatever is there, unless it's extremely strong. I mean, if it's a really strong thing, it's going to act out. It's going to make things worse. In which case, that's when exorcism might become necessary. But in most cases, negative energy is not being caused by something that an average person cannot handle on their own. As long as they have, the faith of a mustard seed, you need that. And, honestly, I don't think there's too many people that do. So, the fact that you went to you went to holy water and you used it and it responded means that you're doing something right there, Brandon.
Heck yeah.
All right, I guess that's
Yeah.
well, we got a couple more minutes. All right, any other stories in the next, we got 3 minutes before we go to the next
Well,
break.
one more
Yeah.
talking about like the holy water. We recently worked a case with a 9-10-year-old boy, and he was seeing all kinds of different stuff, and he was terrified by it. And so his question was, "Am I really seeing something, or am I going crazy?" And so, we did our investigation, and at one point, Brandon took some holy water and basically put a cross on his forehead. And you want to tell him what happened when you did that?
Yeah, so how this child was reporting the activity, I don't necessarily think he was lying per se, but there was a lot of embellishments. And so knowing that me putting holy water on him would have no effect, he didn't have to know that. And so when I put the holy water on his forehead, he was able to go the entire investigation. He wasn't scared. When initially he said he was terrified of some places, like he kept seeing things. After I did that, he was perfectly fine after that.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I say that is the most normal thing. You read the Desert Fathers. I think it was St. Anthony of the Desert who said, oh, well, when the devil comes, just make the sign of the cross and he'll run away.
Yeah.
I think that is, in the vast majority of cases, that's the beginning and end of the whole thing. If it's not, it's because God has a different purpose.
Or more, maybe even more importantly than that, Father, is that if it does not work, it's because there's somebody in that scenario, in the equation that you're working, that
Who's fighting
simply
it.
does not want it to work.
Yeah.
We've come across that.
It almost, I've not really encountered many situations, unless you're dealing with like high level saints. There's not many situations where God, I'm going to permit this person to go through this suffering because there's some higher.
No.
That's not very common. The average person's not going to ever be contented with God on that level because they're not going to be challenged by God in a way that's going to hurt them. Okay. You need saint level fortitude to be able to go against that kind of.
You need to be able to take it.
You need to be able to take it. God's not going to put you through that. But if a person is not willing to receive it, that's all it takes for it to not work, because God will not interfere with a person's volition, their free will. It's too important, too sacred. Your freedom's too sacred to God. It's the most sacred thing. More important than your holiness is your freedom, because your holiness depends on that freedom first. Without the foundation of freedom, there is no holiness. Okay?
Because you can only love him if you're free to reject him. And he wants your love.
That's exactly right. Okay, we're going to take our next break, and then when we come back, more of your questions, comments, call into the show. Okay, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Vestiges After Dark on the second summer special. I hope that you are having a wonderful time with tonight's episode. And we're going to continue here by looking further into any of your questions or answering anything that might be on your mind, or just continuing the discussion in any direction it goes. Sometimes I think that's what people want the most out of this episode. But if you want to call and be a part of it, 207-544-1983. That's 207-544-1983. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, because the algorithm hates us. Okay, so they're not going to promote this show. The algorithms of the social media are not going to promote this show. You have to be the ones that promote this show. Okay, and you can do that by interacting with the algorithm. Okay, so make sure you do that. Go to all of the platforms and like and subscribe and comment. All right, even if it's just I love this show, that's all you can do. The algorithm will go crazy. Okay. All right, when we come back here, we'll get back to the discussion. Don't go away. All right, so I know that I'm going to cut to the chase because I know we're going to get in all of the views that will come later, on demand for this show. I'm inevitably going to get this attacked for being too vulgar or whatever. Anytime I'm a little too vulgar, somebody has to call me out for that. What kind of holy man is this? Well, it's the kind of holy man that understands what holiness really is, okay? And it's not presented or represented by outward displays of pretension and God knows what, everything else. I call things as I see it because authenticity is far closer to holiness than any kind of pretension could ever produce. So, these people with their, the lofty eyes and these, gentle demeanors. I don't buy it. I don't buy it because we're all of a fallen nature, and I'm not going to put on a show for you to meet your expectations. That's not what I'm here to do. What I'm here is to shock your expectations so that you wake up and that you listen to me. Because when I say fuck this, you hear that and your brain actually responds to it. If I just talk in lofty theological, intellectual language, you're not going to tune out. You're going to be drifting. All right. You probably just turn it off. All right. But if I speak in a way that captures your attention, maybe you'll listen to the words that really matter. That's not the word that matter, but this does. Same thing with like goddamn. Okay, people get all bent out of shape. I remember I went to go see that movie, that Western that didn't do too well with Field of Dreams there. What's that guy? Oh gosh, I'm so bad with names.
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner. That Western a few years back. It didn't do well.
Well, there's another part coming out.
Oh, yeah, but they've been saying that for years. It hasn't come. I mean, they filmed it all apparently at the same time. I don't know.
I watched it. I didn't think it was that bad.
I liked it. But I remember sitting down. It's very long, and there was an older couple next to me in the theater, and then the movie was over. They asked me how I liked it, and I said I thought it was really good. I said, "What did you?"
Not to interrupt you, Tracy. Thank you. It's called Horizon.
Horizon. Thank you. I said I thought it was pretty damn good.
It was pretty good.
And she said to me, she said, well, I liked it, but it had too many GDs in it. I know that the prevailing opinion in Christianity is that using the word goddamn is using God's name in vain. Well, first of all, God is not God's name. Okay, we established that with the Tetragrammaton in the first hour. All right, that's the name that's being referred to in using it in vain. And honestly, you know how you use that word in vain? At least from the vantage point of the Jewish people who wrote that, you actually say the word. Okay, that would be using it in vain. God is not God's name. Okay, and so therefore, the correct understanding of that terminology is that God is damning or condemning whatever it is that it is. And I typically, I don't use it very often because, again, people get the wrong idea. But when I do use it, it's usually because I'm emotionally provoked by something and I'm calling attention to the hypocrisy of something, and that, yeah, God is absolutely condemning it. He damns this thing. It is not using the Lord's name in vain, as has been suggested by almost the majority of Christianity today. It's a complete misunderstanding of what that rule is in Scripture. And so, look, let's get away from all of the, again, the outward displays, because that's Pharisaical. And let's get to the authenticity of the matter. I don't hide the fact that I'm a fallen creature. I don't pretend that I'm something better than I am. I'm a sinner just like you are. And it's important for us to talk authentically about that so that we don't forget who we are and we don't forget the lot we're in, and we can help each other get out of it. That's what this is all about anyway. So, I know that some people won't like that, but I'm going to cutting to the chase. I'm going to cut to the chase, because before you start with your bullshit online and leave me all these ridiculous comments, I can cut this little thing into a little short, and I can put it out there to remind all of you why I am the way that I am. And I'm not here to please you. I'm just here to wake you up a little bit. And hopefully I've done that tonight. Okay. All right. You said there was another question. So let's get to the next one.
There was a question up thread asking, do either one of you use AI to write your homilies or help with your homilies?
Okay, well, I'll start it off. No, I do not. I mean, I really don't even write any homilies. They just come to me when I stand at the podium or the lectern, and the pulpit, whatever you want to call it, and whatever the Holy Spirit guides me to say. What's that? What's that?
The Ambo.
The Ambo, yeah.
I call it the Ambo.
The Ambo, that's a good one. No,
It's
it's an Ambo. It's got a lot of, almost everything in a church has at least 5 or 10 different names. So, I mean, you call it what you want. But I mean, I just let the Holy Spirit guide me, and I feel that if I were to write something down ahead of time, it would stifle that process. And a lot of times, the Holy Spirit does give me the message that the people that are attending need to hear, and that's far more important than if I try to, intellectually come up with something. Now, that being said, what I have used AI for is that one of the biggest complaints I think that Christians often have, and we can even talk about some of those tonight, because I actually have a list if we have time. We can look at it's a social media post that I saved about somebody asked sincerely why they no longer go to church. What
that was me.
Earthquake. Sorry.
Yeah. My leg.
She asked her followers, if why do you no longer go to church? No judgment. I want your actual answer. And I thought we could look at some of those tonight if there's time, if we don't have a lot of questions. I always prepare just in case it's a low night for questions. And one of the things that does come up in that list a couple times, actually, I think, is that I've heard the homilies 1,000 times. It's the same message over and over again. I don't need to hear it anymore. Well, yeah, you kind of do. But even outside the point, I understand how it can be a little repetitive and monotonous. And so sometimes when you get a reading,
not everyone's a good preacher.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
It is a gift.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Your priest is still a good priest, even if he's a lousy preacher.
And homily is a sort of talent to some degree. It is a skill and it is a gift at the same time. But one of the things that I try to do sometimes is that if I do get, I do take a look at the gospel that's coming up and some of the readings, and if I see that, oh my goodness, it's like one of those where you just have to kind of talk about the same thing over and over again. I have used AI to say, give me 5 different perspectives on this theologically, and that way it might invoke something that I wasn't thinking about.
Like a fresh point of view.
Yes, it's like a fresh point of view. And no, I do not say, well, write this out so I can dictate what you said. I mean, no, I do not do that at all. But
it's a lousy writer anyway.
It is usually not good. Well, definitely not a good writer for theological discussion. But I will use it in that context only. Sometimes if it's just like I feel like, I'm tired, I have a headache. I need new ideas because I don't want to sound like a broken record. I've already shared this message before and I'm really out of ideas. Can you give me some new perspectives of how to look at this? And I've done that on maybe a handful of occasions. I can probably count on one hand how many times I've done that. That's the only time. Father, do you ever use it for anything else in pastoral care?
The only thing I really use, it's not AI. The only thing I use with preparing homilies, I said this in the chat. I think us Gen Xers are going to have jobs until we die, because we're the last group of people that had to actually remember things, and so the way we learned was you had to have it in your head, and it's not the same to replace that with Google. Oh, I can Google anything. It's like, yeah, but if those thoughts aren't in your head already, or if that information isn't in your head, you can't synthesize things the same way. Right. And therefore, I think what we've had is with millennials and later, because they've kind of been encouraged to learn that way, AI sort of replaces that synthesis that we can do. But it's not human, and it's a good mimic, and it'll improve. I'm not anti-AI, by the way. I don't want that to come across. I'm pro-technology, and Christians have always been so. I said in the chat,
Jesus would totally be using social media if he was here today. Absolutely, he would.
But the early church radically adopted the codex, which we now call books, right?
Yeah.
That was technology, because everything was on a scroll until codexes, and so codices, I should say. And so a book is technology. The printing press is technology. And so I'm not anti-tech at all. But I do think homilies are a difference. Like, I've written political speeches for politicians as well, right? Now, you could say, well, a sermon and a political speech, they're both speeches. Well, they've got that in common. But that's all they've got in common. They're not the same genre.
Different purposes.
And so I would happily use AI to craft a political speech, because why not?
Why not?
Like you said, you get the talking points. I'd use it like Google to say, could you find me a quote from the Council of Trent where this happened? But that's just Googling. That's not really AI. And so but I think for a homily, that's why you can't really replace going to seminary. And it's not just about getting a theology degree. A degree doesn't make you a preacher. It is about that kind of discipline of reading, rereading, listening to other opinions and sources. You know, when we do biblical theology, we read, you know, Jewish scholars like E.P. Sanders on the New Testament. You know, I mean, and also, so I did that seminary. You know, listening to a lot of homilies, being at church, you know, listening to a terrible homily and figuring out why it's terrible, listening to a good one, figuring out why it's good.
Yeah.
Actually having practiced homilies, welcoming feedback. You know, when I first started preaching, I always had somebody in the congregation, normally a retired priest or somebody with some at least, you know, ability to actually criticize me. I actually wanted them to be able to effectively, and you ask them for feedback. Also somebody that's not there, you know, that just literally needs to be fed, that's somebody that can feed back. And so, and then if I'm honest, I also, whenever I went running, before my knees went and I had to start walking instead, I used to listen to Fulton Sheen's talks, you know, other great people who are in fact, you know, acknowledged as the greatest at preaching, from different traditions too. I mean, Ian Paisley of Northern Ireland was hardly my theology, but he was a very, very impressive preacher. And so I can learn things about how to preach from him, not necessarily what to preach. And so, you know, that's how you develop this ability. And so, you know, when I first started preaching, it's the one thing I didn't think I wanted to do, actually. I wanted everything else about the priesthood, but not the preaching. But it turned out to be something I was actually all right at. And so often the way with God, he you know, because his glory is shone through when you become good at something you weren't good at before.
Yeah.
And so, and I used to literally write my homilies because I was nervous and new and didn't, you know, thought, what have I got to say? So, and of course, when I look back at them, they're more like essays than sermons, which is understandable and natural. That's what happens because you write essays at seminary. So you start writing essays as sermons. And then when you know, eventually when you look up from your piece of paper and you see all the blank faces in front of you, you think maybe that's not connecting. And so I then shifted to introduction and conclusion was written, but in between were just dot points. And then I thought, actually, I don't need any of it. And you know, you also grow in learning and wisdom and all the rest of it. So like you, I can't remember the last time I actually wrote a homily down.
I think
that's not,
it doesn't come out well.
People think that's lazy. It's the opposite of that. It's because I put so much work in, and it doesn't mean I'm not thinking and rehearse. Like I've got to give, it's not a homily, but a speech about free speech on Sunday at a public gathering. I'm not going to write that down. I'm in no way nervous. I mean, for most people to think I'm going to turn up, there'll be thousands of people looking at me and I haven't got anything on a piece of paper. That's their idea of hell, right? For me, that doesn't bother me in the slightest. But don't think that's a lazy way out. It's the opposite. I've had to apply so much learning, knowledge, understanding, and practice. And ahead of that, I've been thinking about it all week, what I want to include in that. And so, but when I deliver it, it will not sound rehearsed because it's not been rehearsed. It will be fresh and authentic and genuine. And so, but there's no shortcut to that. You've got to do all of the donkey work to get there, you know, and if you've not done that, AI would be very tempting.
Jerry Seinfeld famously once said that, you know, there was a study conducted that the number one fear or the number two fear of people is dying and death, and then the number one fear is actually public speaking, and it's statistically true. At least it was at the time. And Jerry, you know, Jerry Seinfeld said, which means that the guy giving the eulogy is worse off than the one in the coffin.
Hey, there was a time in high school I would agree with him. I was terrified to do that.
But the reality of it is that I've never known the fear of public speaking. It's just not in my nature. I just never had a bother. Never. I was always the first one. Like when in school, you know, when we were, you know, having to give presentations to the class or something, I was always the first one to raise my hand because I loved it. It was like, God, give me something to do. I'm so sick and tired of sitting at this desk listening to people. I want to be doing something else. And so I saw it as an opportunity to be like, well, I can get up there and do stuff. And I think, you know, probably Vestiges After Dark is a is a continuation of that.
I was like that too. I mean, you know, my only hesitancy in preaching was that, I mean, it wasn't the public speaking aspect, because like you, it's never bothered me a day in my life.
Yeah.
But it was the, why would anyone listen to what I've got to say about God?
Yeah, I mean, you worry
But I
about
think
that
that's
initially.
that's a good way to to begin from, I think.
Yeah,
I
no,
think,
I think so. A
it's
little
better than
humility
going,
doesn't
"Oh, I
hurt,
know
right?
everything." Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. I think April, you said there was a question on Facebook. Did we get to that
Yeah, I
one?
think she's got another one that just came in.
Okay.
I do
Yeah,
also
there's a
also have a topic in on my list if you want to come to it. So
Okay. Sure
it's all
thing.
good.
Yeah.
But if not, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so the question comes from Sandra, and she asked, what does it mean when spirits say to you, you have extreme energy in your left hand and they want to touch my hand?
What does it mean when spirits come to you and tell you that you have extreme energy in your left hand and they want to touch that hand? Did I hear you
I
correctly?
wonder if this
That's
lady's
what
a
it says, yes.
sensitive or. It
I mean, I think
that.
yeah, there's not enough information there to say what it means. What it means at its fundamental
Context.
level is that you're, you're at the very least sensitive to a spiritual thing. But I mean, if you're hearing, I would be more interested to know in the way in which you're getting this information. When you say you're being told this, are you hearing it audibly? Is it like a voice in your head, or is it coming through some kind of feeling or intuiting it in some way? Because the way that the information's conveyed matters more than what's being said. And I want to say this universally: never believe a damn thing that any spirit tells you. Okay, don't, because the ethereal is often so relative that even when it attempts to tell the truth, it's still a lie. Okay? The information that we receive from spirits is almost entirely useless. It's almost entirely useless. Only in certain contexts can that be valuable information, which means, and I know this is going to burst a lot of people's bubbles and they're going to hate me for it, but you know what? So be it.
What else is new?
What else is new, right?
Add it to the till.
What's going to change? I mean, nothing in my life's going to
Cry me a
change.
river.
Yeah. So cry me a river, right. So the reality of it is, okay, the information that you get from mediums and all of this stuff is largely just worthless. I'm not saying there isn't information being conveyed, but the problem is the majority of the information that's being conveyed is not applicable. Not that it's necessarily right or wrong or a lie or a truth. It is simply not applicable. It's the same
If it was
thing.
useful, they'd all be billionaires.
Absolutely, because look, go and take your divination tool of choice. Maybe dowsing rods are a big thing. I've got some copper dowsing rods, really nice ones. Okay, and go and have it tell you what numbers are going to come up in the lottery. And you know what? It will give you numbers. You can actually say, show me yes and show me no. And it will cross when it's yes. And it will go the opposite direction when it's no. And you can just go through all the numbers on the lottery. I've done this so many times, you can't even count. It never gets them right. Doesn't even usually get one number right.
Well, it might have got them right, but they were the numbers from like 15 years ago.
Or just not relative to any. Yeah, exactly. Not relative to anything that's actually happening. So the problem is that any other way that you apply information you gather from spiritual sources that way is just as not applicable. All right. So when I get a spirit, like, look, I'm not a stranger to these kinds of encounters myself. There'll be often times where I'll be, trying to mind my own business, trying to go to bed. All right. And all of a sudden at 3:00 in the morning, I'm woken up to some voice that says, "Hey, asshole." I mean, I've told you this story, and it's like, where's
That's just Tracy?
I wish she's usually out like a light. I mean, when she goes out, she goes out. It's like she's got an off switch that I wish I had, you know?
Man.
But yeah, I can't sleep like she can. I'm a very like, you know, you can just literally nudge me and I'm ready to go to war.
Yeah.
You know, that's
a cat could fart in the next room. I'll be up grabbing my pistol looking for targets.
No, it wasn't always like that. When I was a teenager, I could go into like these trance-like states, but today not anymore.
Yeah.
Unless I'm trying to meditate, that I can do, but I mean, I can't go to sleep that way. And so, it's useless information. It doesn't, okay, it tells me that there's something there, but then again, there's always something there. I mean,
so
everything's
easy to get
haunted.
distracted with the information that comes through, and we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
Where we'll get a response that actually correlates with what we're asking, and we
Yeah.
get all excited and go down the rabbit hole, and then we forget what our mission is.
Yeah. And so when
it's just a dog barking.
Yeah,
It's a dog barking.
it is. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's like
a
just
distraction.
like a dog barking. There's really not a whole lot of meaning to what's being said. It's just noise. So you know, where do I use these tools? Like, why do I even have an SB11 or a Portal J and all this stuff we talked about? You know, why even bother asking questions? Well, because you can sometimes zero it into that specific thing, but if there's no cooperation, then it just tells me whether or not I need to be giving it the benefit of the doubt. And that's where my role begins and ends. So at that point, it's clearing it. Well, the goal is always to clear it out. The goal is not to linger and be like, oh my God, my grandmother's talking to me and she's telling me that everything's okay. I don't give a shit, okay? It's not your grandmother. It's at best, it's an echo of your grandmother that's been, bouncing around the ether for the last, 20 years or how long she's been dead. It's not what you knew your grandmother to be. It's an echo of what it was. It means nothing.
Why do you need to hear that anyway? I mean,
comfort, I guess. I don't know. It's comfort, maybe.
I know, but there's a deeper kind of faith question here.
Yeah.
And it's it's connected to all of the things that's wrong with contemporary thinking about Christians. It's that this kind of idea that God's looking for a reason to screw you, like looking for a reason.
Yeah,
to
wrong
throw
God.
you into hell.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is definitely the Father Chrisism for tonight. Why is God looking for a reason to screw you?
It's so. I mean, look, I don't want to be unsympathetic to people who are in turmoil. When people die, I mean, I'm sad. When my relatives die, it makes me sad.
Yeah.
I don't misunderstand me.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm going, oh, now I've got to go pour over their lives and figure out whether they're in hell or not. Like, let me tell you, unless there are some people who determinedly reject God. In fact, to be honest, you have to believe in God to be in that camp, by the way. And so, they're saying, no, I'm absolutely determined that I hate God and do not want to be with him forever. I think very few people actually vocalize that in this lifetime. I don't think your old granny did. And so don't worry about it. Like, she's fine. It's you who's grieving.
Yep.
And what does our Lord say? Blessed are those who grieve, for they will be comforted. But you're not looking for comfort from, an electronic device giving some word that your mind filters through. Oh, that's my grandma, she's all right. No, the comfort is in the scriptures, is in the church, is in the revelation of God as man. If God was looking for an excuse to screw your grandmother and throw her in hell, I'm not sure he'd have died on a cross. So and I'm sorry if that sounds glib, but I'm actually trying to comfort people by saying, don't be so ridiculous. You don't need to look for these signs, and also you need to let go. When someone you love has died, they have gone.
Yeah, that's the most important
but
thing.
they've gone to a
clients.
better place. Well, it's not a place, but they've gone to a better way of being. And we both rejoice. We have grief, but we also rejoice.
The biggest problem, and any occultist is going to tell you this, if you don't believe a priest or a bishop like us, then believe an occultist, because an occultist is going to tell you, any serious one, any genuine one's going to tell you this, okay? The spiritual world, or what we call the spiritual world, is basically just a cosmic copy machine. It's a big Xerox machine. And all it will do is reproduce your fears and your wants. That's all it's there to do. And so, you remember movie The Secret, and they had a book, and it, became this big phenomenon and everything else, and it was all about the power of positive thinking. There is truth to
parishioner
that.
gave me that book
Oh,
once
I
to
bet
say,
they did.
I think you should talk about this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Someone gifted me that book too. I haven't read it yet.
It's a very simplistic
This was
view,
years
but
ago.
generally what it comes down to is that we create our own reality, which, big surprise. I mean, if you don't know that already, I feel sorry for you. I mean, but the fact is that we do. And yeah, the more negative you are, the more negative things happen to you. The more positive you are, the more good things happen to you. And sometimes the universe has other ideas that even if you're being positive, you still have bad things happen. That can sometimes occur, okay? Because, there's not one variable at work. There's multiple variables, and we can only shift them in our favor by being more positive and avoiding negativity. But the fact of the matter is, the cosmos is just manufacturing bullshit. And there's so much bullshit in the human mind that's all it's really doing. I mean, if we could have pure thoughts, like real, genuine, serious, meaningful thoughts, then yeah, we could definitely change this reality and make it a whole lot better than it is. But because there's so much bullshit in there, and we allow so much bullshit to stay in there, then that's what the cosmos is manufacturing. So when you're getting spirits talking to you, understand it's just cosmic bullshit. So what does it mean? It means that it's cosmic bullshit and it wants to touch you. So maybe say no. Say, no, I don't want any cosmic bullshit today, and go on and live your life and forget about that kind of stuff, because it doesn't actually have intrinsic meaning. And any genuine occultist is going to tell you that, and any priest that knows that's worth his ordination, is going to tell you this. God is where authenticity is. And that is the only thing that one needs to worry about if you're worried about spiritual things. And if you're not worried about spiritual things, then I wouldn't worry about any of it.
And especially an exorcist would say that. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, when spirits start talking, and as you say, they're like the witches in Macbeth, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, to win you with their harms, the instruments of darkness tell you truths. Like they'll know things about you that they're not that they couldn't possibly know. Now more often than not, they won't do that about The Exorcist, because they know we'll just say, shut up. Like, I don't care. I'm not interested in what you're going to say. But they'll say it about somebody else in the room who is like, what? Tell me more about that. And The Exorcist should say, shush, shut up. We're not going to talk about that. Do not speak to this.
Yeah. I mean, that is so fundamentally important, because one of the things that I don't like having a lot of, I don't like having an audience when we're doing exorcisms, because people will try to interact and talk to.
Yeah, if you're not helping, get out.
And the fact of the matter is, do not talk to these things. The exorcist is the only one that should ever have any communication with whatever spirit is talking through that person, and it's not for conversation, and it's not to have a good time. If the exorcist engages, it's because he's trying to get information that's necessary to complete the task. The rest of it, it's shut the hell up. Because even if it is spewing some kind of secret truths that that the exorcist doesn't want known or whatever, it doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is, it might be spectacular. You might be like, wow, this is amazing. This is, wow, it's really true. People do get possessed. This really is the devil. But the fact of the matter is, that doesn't matter. What matters is that the person gets healed, and you're not going to be able to heal anybody if you're sitting there having a conversation with this asshole that's inside, affecting this person. It's not really inside the person. It's kind of just controlling the person. But the fact of the matter is, we have to have a correct perspective on things. Spirits are not good sources of information, because they are just subject to the whimsy of the ethereal. And you're like, well, what is the spiritual world like? People ask me, like, what is it going to be like in the spiritual world? I can tell you already, because you already know. You know what it's like? It's like your imagination. Whatever you want, it will produce. But you have to have control over it, because it also produces everything you don't want, because there's more in your imagination than just simply your actual volitional thoughts. Because, don't believe me? Well, what about where your nightmares come from then? Your brain's producing those too. That's you. It doesn't come from anything else. You produce those nightmares. Do you want to sit there and be in terror all night? Most people don't. But your brain's producing that, because that's all part of the same reality. And the spiritual world is that. It's made of that same substance, because your mind is very much just that. It's a little microcosm of that macrocosmic reality that we call the spiritual world. And so, you can't trust your imagination. All you can do is shape it and utilize it and project it for meaningful tasks. But if it's just left to run wild, it does nothing, right? I mean, that's why children play with it, because it's fun to play with. But it doesn't really do much unless you hone it in, like an artist hones it in. Or, a musician uses imagination to create music, like we were talking about. Or, a writer writes stories because he hones his imagination into something meaningful. Or even an architect builds buildings with that imagination. But it has to be honed. It has to be controlled. But if you just let it run wild, it's not going to build a building. It's not going to write a good song. It's not going to create a good story. It's just going to be gibberish, like a night where you're paying attention to your dreams and all this wild, crazy shit comes into the frame of consciousness. And that's the spiritual world. So when you're talking to spirits, it's like talking to the characters in your dreams. Meaningless content. Yeah, there might be some intrinsic reality underneath the surface. Like even a traumatic dream has a traumatic basis. Maybe you had a stressful day, and so that stress is now coming out, and it's a representation of that stress. So that, in that sense, you could say it's meaningful, but it's not any more meaningful than that. It's like, okay, so I had stress today. Okay, let's get beyond the stress so we can go back to living like normal. And then you do. All right. And then tomorrow's dream is a better dream, or maybe you don't even remember it. Like most of the time, you're not even going to remember them. This is the entire framework of the spiritual world, because God is not the spiritual world. God is transcendent of that spiritual world. I don't like when people equate heaven to being this spiritual dimension of sorts. It's not. It's the only authentic thing that is, and you've never actually known it. The closest you can get to what God is or what heaven is like is not the spiritual world. That's the spiritual world is just the gunk in your head. All right. What God is, the closest thing you can get to it is the sensation of genuine compassion. All right. What that feels like to actually know that. All right. The experience of sharing love, of giving, that is the closest we as human beings can get to the kingdom of heaven, or the authenticity that is God. And believe me, there's no imagination there. Compassion doesn't need imagination. Compassion needs action, and it's focused action. All right. It's meaningful action. It's activities that produce something. Because otherwise, there is no meaning here. We live in the fallen universe. So the cosmos, as God designed it, has been broken. So when the atheist says, oh, well, this is just a nihilistic reality, it means nothing, he's not wrong. Yeah, it's nihilistic because it's being destroyed as we speak, as we're living in it. Everything's dying around us. People are dying around us. Animals are dying around us. Plants are dying around us. The cosmos itself is dying. The stars are burning out. Entropy is everywhere. Okay, that's fundamentally true. It is a nihilistic reality. Where it's not nihilistic is that there's a way to get out of this, but you have to know how to do it, and you can't do it by succumbing to it, and nihilists like to succumb to it. So that's the problem with nihilism. But they're not wrong in the fundamental principle, in what they're positing in the initial stage is correct. There's no meaning here. You have to create it by finding God. And then the meaning finds you, because God then reconnects, and then all of a sudden the original meaning of creation is apparent to you. That's what we call salvation. You thought it was about escaping hell. Well, I guess if you look at it a certain way, it is, but that's not what it's about, really. It's not about escaping hell. It's about understanding the connection to create meaning, because we're made in God's image, and the whole point of creation is to create meaning. And so artists get to participate in that when they do their art. Writers get to participate in that when they write things. And that's why it's so enjoyable to do that. And that's why so many people like to read novels or go to movies, because it's fun to participate in what creation was meant to be. And that's the closest we can get to those experiences. But spirits wanting to touch your arm in the middle of the night, I mean, I'd say go fuck off is how I'd answer that. There's no meaning to that. It's just a waste of your time and its time, and there's better things to do. There's better things to do.
I'd say the problem with paranormal investigating and trying to help people, I think we've found out this, the more we've helped y'all, the more cases we've done, is too many people, their understanding or their exposure, the paranormal, is watching Ghost Adventures or drive-by mediums like the Long Island Medium, saying that, oh, this information, this spirit told me this and that, and that's their only understanding. And so when you, the investigator, you, the person that understands things, say something that goes against what the TV is saying, oh, then you're wrong. They don't believe you. So I think that's one of the biggest problems we have is TV and them.
It is. You're right. You're so spot on with that, because they see that as the authority. It's like somebody went out of their way to put this on television. It's being seen by the masses. There must be some authenticity there. There must be something that is worth paying attention to there, because it's on TV. And honestly, if it's on TV, it's probably the least important thing to look at. It's probably, almost all bullshit, because it's just like media, right? The media is just full of bullshit. And so the more published something is, I think the worse it is as far as being authentic. Authenticity has to come from something far deeper than, just what sells, because most people want to be told a lie. So the only way you make money in media, because the media is just, they're prostitutes for money. Profit. That's what they're there to do. They're not there really to entertain you. They're not there to make the world better. They're there to make profit. So they're not going to sell something that's not going to be received. They want to sell something that people want to hear. So they're going to make it more pleasurable, more distracting, more, fantasy-like. And so, yes, even paranormal shows are going to fall victim to that, because the ultimate goal here is not helping people. The ultimate goal here is to make fucking money. We
know that because we tried to get a show where we could actually help people.
And that didn't go very well. And everyone's like, why don't you have your own show? Well, go and ask Discovery Networks. Go and ask any network. Go and ask all the producers that did see value in what we were doing and did pilots. We did a lot of pilots. We filmed a lot of pilots, and not one of them ever made it to the air. You know why? Because it was just too fucking authentic, and that does not sell. That does not sell. Just like Vestiges After Dark, okay? You can get people that spew this bullshit with 1 million views. But we do a show like this, and this show will be lucky if it gets maybe 300 or 400 on YouTube, and then it gets, sometimes a few thousand in the audio version. But, part of it's the algorithm. But why is the algorithm punishing us? Because the algorithm looks at it and says, oh, nobody wants to hear this shit, so we're just going to not promote it. And that's what ends up happening. Okay. So yeah, the more mass produced something is, Brandon, you are right on with that one. And I'm sure that's a big challenge to anybody working in this work. April, look, you're a therapist. Okay. And as well as I do, okay, that the trick to successful therapy is waking up to what's real, because most people are living in the delusion of whatever their trauma is. And it's not that the trauma is fake. It's the effect that it still has power over you that's fake. And that's what you have to get them to overcome. Okay, you were molested as a child, maybe. Okay, that's a trauma. It's horrible. It should never have happened. But it's not happening now, and yet your brain still acts like it is. This is where anxiety and depression and everything else comes from. How do you overcome that? Therapy helps you to realize you're not being hurt anymore. You have your power back. You can make a difference now. And then that allows a person that's willing to move forward and get beyond that trauma. But it all happens with awakening, with understanding one's self. And if one wants to live in delusion, well, they're never going to get better. What's your perspective on that as a therapist?
It makes me think about what you've talked about before, as far as like certain religions being dogmatic. People believe what they want to believe, and it's like, to get them to change their mind it takes moving a mountain, literally. And I think that, and you talk a lot about like attachments, and I think people get attached to their trauma, or they get attached to whatever their belief system is, and it's really a hard thing to get them to step outside of that. And I believe that's true in the paranormal field as well as any other field that you run across.
Everybody loves their labels.
They do, and we're slaves to them, and that's the opposite of freedom. So if you're going to define freedom as the highest expression of holiness, it's like it's above holiness, okay, and we've already established that, then anything that deprives you of that freedom has to be coming from the nature of evil. So when you look at all of the distractions in the world and how things like social media controls people, their cell phones control them, their smartphones, their computers, and maybe it's like certain things like pornography or food or whatever, even their own trauma. Even when there's a understandable cause. Like, I mean, okay, you've been hurt as a child. It's understandable why you're all fucked up today. But the fact is, healing has to come from recognizing it, by understanding that there is a problem first, and that you are willing to now work to solve that problem. Until you get a person to that point, no therapist can help you, no priest can help you, nothing can help you. No drug's going to do that either. Don't think that psychotropic medication is going to be like the big solution.
It's so true. I mean, you can't really say, there's no point saying it this way as a priest, but if I was a professional therapist, I'd say, so do you want to be healed or do you want to make me rich?
Yeah, right?
Fair point.
Because I can either help you. You can be as articulate as you like, describing all of your hang-ups and problems and pains. I can make you give you new language to talk about it. So instead of saying I'm screwed up, you can say, oh, I have trauma. I'm transferring. I'm projecting. I can give you new language to discuss how screwed up you are. Mm-hmm. Or we can help you not be screwed up. Which would you rather do? The former will make me rich. The latter will make you rich.
Well, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about, people's got to want to change. And, when I went through my counseling training, one of the biggest things is, am I working harder than my client is? And if I am, there's a problem there, because I can't do the work. They've got to do the work. Mm-hmm.
And I bet you find yourself having to face that reality often, because I think sometimes they look
every day.
Every day, yeah. Because see, there's so much similarity between being a therapist and a priest, and even there's a big. It's funny that we're all here together. Origin. It's funny that we're all here together because there's actually a direct
priest and a therapist walked into a bar,
and they're all basically cut from the same cloth with the same general problems that they face. And one of the things is very much what you just described, is that they see you. People see you as the solution, as the savior. And it's not, you're not there. You're a facilitator. Cops are facilitators. All right. They're facilitators for safety, but they cannot really keep you intrinsically safe, right? I mean, no cop is going to post himself outside your door all day and make sure that nothing happens to you. Ultimately, you have to take responsibility for your own safety. All right. They can help facilitate that in the midst of an emergency, but outside of an emergency, you're on your own, which is why you need to, learn self-defense and learn what you can do to make your life safer. Same thing with overcoming trauma or even spiritual problems, whether you be going to an exorcist because you have a demonic thing going on, or, you get mental illness and you need a therapist. These are facilitators to help you overcome it, but you have to do the work. Very important to understand with exorcists. How many times do we get in a week, or at least in a month's filing of cases, where the person says, I need an exorcism? They just tell you what they need. They don't even go into the problem. They just tell you what you need to do.
Yeah,
okay.
We got clients, we got current clients and past clients that, they'll give you a donation, you'll do the interview, you'll do an assessment, you'll do next steps, and then not 2 weeks later, so when are you going to do this? Well, it's a process. It could take a while. Well, I need to know when. I need to know what timeline. I need to know when you're coming here. We need to exercise the property or the house or me or whoever. And it's like, it doesn't quite work like that. And trying to explain it to people, they just want, well, I gave you donations, so you have to do this. No, that's not how it works. And you need to be a player in your own game, so to speak. You need to handle your own business before we can come in and help you. Yeah, it's. I'm dealing with a few clients right now with that same issue. It's like, don't get demanding because we're providing a service, and you have to adhere to our policy and procedure, not how you think it should be.
Yeah, and the donation aspect is not
you're dealing
payment.
With two problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, the donation's not a payment.
No, we're dealing with two problems.
Go ahead, Father.
Yeah. Sorry, my internet's glitching, so
no, you're good. No, you're good. I noticed that you were. It didn't notice that you're having some problems over there.
Yeah. Anyway, so I won't get into it, but it's telling me there's problems my end, so it's not you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got the dual problem of consumerism, which we all know what consumerism is. I pay for a service, give me the service, but it's on the back of something which is much more significant, which is the shift in the 19th century towards it's where you get the romantic period. Frankenstein's monster. The human being is a machine, and you just got to get the input. So, give me a pill and it'll cure me. Exercise me. That's the solution. So it's both those things at the same time.
Yep.
This is the solution. This is the mechanical solution, if you like, to my problem, and I'm paying you to do it. So do it now.
Yeah. And
when it comes to spiritual problems, that is a disastrous.
Yeah, these things are like onions. You've got to literally peel back the layers carefully, one at a time, to get to the source of the problem, and that can take a long time. And if the client's not willing to take the reins and navigate their own healing, then what are you going to do?
And I want to make clear for anybody that watches this who might be thinking, I need to contact this group so that I can get help. Look, when the donation that is asked for is to pay the out-of-pocket expenses that the church incurs for taking your case.
Right. I don't want people to think we charge.
We don't charge for anything. We don't make, the church makes no money off of what the donation. The donation is not a fee. All right. So you're entitled to nothing when you donate to this church. The church will do its best to try to help you, but it's going to use its own process. It's going to do it its own way. And if you're going to get in the way of it, the church is going to step away. And we have too many people asking for help. Exactly. And there's too many people asking for help who are willing to do it the right way, to listen to us. And so therefore that we're going to spend our time with them. Remember how I said in the early, I shake the dust from my face. I take that very seriously. When Jesus said that, I take it seriously. Okay. All right. That's the end of the show, everybody. I want to say, April, thank you. Brandon, thank you for being with us tonight. I hope you can join more often. And Father Chris, thank you. Jamie, thank you. A big thanks to our moderators out there in the chats. And you guys are fantastic. You make the whole world of Vestiges go around, as well as the Nicolean Church and our wonderful, beautiful audience. We love each and every one of you. We will be back next month. The last week of September, we will be starting season 14 of Vestiges After Dark. I believe there's 9 episodes scheduled for the fall season. So that's coming up starting in September. Okay, we got some interesting shows. I think something about the moon landing. We got some paranormal shows. Yep, some cryptid shows. So good stuff coming up. You don't want to miss it. But until then, I'll see you out there in the ether. God bless everybody.
Take care, everybody.